Chapter 1302. Of the 9 Netherworld Empyreans, only one remained. At this moment, he roared as he burned his 7th-phase Empyrean cultivation and most of his life source, using the Tao transformation forbidden technique. An incomparably terrifying aura erupted from him, as if all the 3,000 great Taos in this world had been added to his body. Boundless Tao light surrounded him in the blink of an eye. Boom! Netherworld energy surged like a river of stars. The tyrannical power shook the entire 9th heaven. Lin Tian stood in the distance. Seeing this scene, his eyes narrowed. At this time, the aura exuded by the last Netherworld Empyrean was too terrifying, almost exceeding the Empyrean realm. Open for me! The last one was heavenly venerable Netherworld. He wore a yellow robe that was covered with strange runes. At this time, the blue scripture on his forehead was exposed. His face was somewhat ferocious, as if he was a ferocious beast in human form that had rushed out from the underworld. Outside his body, the Netherworld chi rolled and resisted the dark light of death that rushed out from the sinkhole. After colliding with the dark light of death, there was a sizzling sound. Tiny lightning bolts intertwined and shattered the space. Boom! At the bottom of the pit, more black light gushed out, becoming darker and filled with a corrosive aura. With a rumbling sound, clusters of black light rushed out from the bottom of the pit, like a real volcanic eruption. Looking at this scene, it was like the end of the world. Lin Tian stood in the distance, a faint golden light lingering around his body. At this time, he quickly retreated 1,000 feet away. The scene in front of him was too terrifying. If he was not careful, he was worried that he would be affected. With his current cultivation, even if he was brushed by the black light rushing out from the bottom of the pit, he might be destroyed on the spot. In front of him, the yellow-robed Netherworld Empyrean roared crazily. He burned more of his life source, and the aura around his body became even more tyrannical. He constantly collided with the black light rushing out from the bottom of the pit, sweeping out terrifying, murderous lights. The black light rushing out from the bottom of the pit was incomparably terrifying. As if it had a consciousness, it constantly pressed towards the yellow-robed Empyrean. The yellow-robed Empyrean frantically resisted this black light. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 hours passed. More than 2 hours later, at this moment, a wild roar accompanied by a loud bang rang out. The yellow-robed Empyrean lord of the Netherworld was covered in blood. Half of his body had been crushed, and he struggled to break free from the black light of death. He flew thousands of feet away and left the crater. He gasped for breath in the distance, and his aura was as weak as a rock. In the distance, Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. This person actually managed to escape and wasn't swallowed up by the terrifying crater. Rumble! In front of him, there were black holes floating in the void, swallowing everything. In the next moment, these black holes gradually disappeared one after another. Almost at the same time, as the Netherworld race's yellow-robed heavenly lord had left the crater, there was no sign of life in the crater. The black light that had rushed out of the crater slowly descended. In the blink of an eye, the black light that rushed up from the bottom of the sinkhole disappeared, and everyone returned to the bottom of the sinkhole. In an instant, the place became quiet. Only a faint breeze blew through this place. Lin Tian stared at the crater that had returned to normal and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. In such a short time, 8 Empyrean-level powerhouses had been swallowed up. This crater was truly too terrifying. It was truly a place of death. Cough, cough, cough. Thousands of feet away from the crater, the yellow-robed Empyrean lord of the Netherworld race who had survived coughed up blood. His face was deathly pale. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly. His gaze moved away from the crater and looked at the yellow-robed Empyrean in the distance. He sneered and walked over. The yellow-robed Empyrean lord coughed up blood. When he saw Lin Tian striding over, he was shocked and angry. His eyes were full of killing intent. Damn it! Damn human! How dare you trick us like this? You are the ones who are tricking us. What can you do to me now? Lin Tianyi approached step by step with a sneer and sarcasm on his face. "Speaking of which, didn't you already realize that I was deliberately leading you here? You wanted to follow me. So who can you blame? Serves you right. You!" The yellow-robed Empyrean trembled when he heard this. He gritted his teeth and glared angrily at Lin Tian. At the same time, a trace of regret rose in his heart. They had indeed long realized that Lin Tian was deliberately leading them to this place, and guessed that Lin Tian had prepared some method to deal with them. However, they believed that their cultivations were strong and that there were 9 of them together, so they didn't care at all. They didn't think that Lin Tian's method could threaten them. But they never imagined that Lin Tian's plan to kill them would be so terrifying. The 9 of them had been led here, and 8 of them had died tragically. The strongest of them, him, was now seriously injured and on the verge of death. He glared at Lin Tian with hatred. The 9 of them had joined forces to hunt down Lin Tian, but now this was the outcome. 9 Empyrean existences, and the weakest was a 4th-stage Empyrean. Now, 8 of them had been killed by Lin Tian. He stared at Lin Tian, his eyes red. "You despicable bastard!" A swoosh sounded and interrupted his words. Lin Tian appeared in front of him in an instant and raised his leg to kick him. With a bang, this kick landed on the face of the yellow-robed Empyrean from the Netherworld race and sent him flying several hundred feet away. Cough! The yellow-robed Empyrean stabilized himself several hundred feet away. His body had been completely repaired just now, but he coughed up blood again. He looked at Lin Tian in shock and anger. "Human!" He roared angrily. He was a dignified Empyrean powerhouse, but now he was kicked in the face by a human of the 7th layer of the Emperor realm. Lin Tian sneered and stepped forward, leaving behind afterimages with each step. Once again, he appeared in front of this person and kicked out. This was a whip-like kick that landed on the face of the yellow-robed Empyrean again. Bang! The yellow-robed Empyrean was sent flying. His teeth fell out and mixed with fresh blood as they floated in the air. The yellow-robed Empyrean stabilized himself. He was extremely shocked and angry. Lin Tian actually kicked his face again. "You damned human!" Bang! Lin Tian once again appeared in front of him and lashed out with his leg again, sending his opponent flying several hundred meters away. He looked at the yellow-robed Empyrean with a cold smile on his face and stepped forward. After using the Forbidden Tao transformation technique, this person's cultivation had fallen from the 8th layer of the Heavenly Venerable Realm to the 1st layer of the Heavenly Venerable Realm. More than half of his origin had been burned, and he had suffered near-fatal injuries in the sinkhole. At this time, he was already at his weakest. His overall combat strength was at most comparable to a 9th layer of the Emperor Realm cultivator. If it was only at this level, he wouldn't care in the slightest. Back then, you broke into this place from the sealed dust ancient region and caused chaos in the world. You caused the tragic deaths of countless living beings and destroyed countless families. After countless years, you came again after countless schemes. Do you really think that the Netherworld race is invincible? He pressed towards the yellow-robed Empyrean, his voice indifferent. The yellow-robed Sky Sovereign's face was filled with anger. His voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. At the very least, it's not something that a weak and insignificant race like you can compare to. Lin Tianling smiled. In the next moment, he appeared in front of this person and ruthlessly lashed out with his leg. With a pung sound, this person was sent flying. This time, he was sent flying more than 1,000 zhang away, and a large amount of blood splattered in the air. Inferior race? Back then, it was the so-called inferior race that trapped your nether race in the sealed dust ancient region for countless years. Now, it's the same low-level race you speak of that killed 8 Empyreans with their Emperor rank cultivation. They sent you, an 8th-stage Empyrean, flying like a stray dog. He was being sarcastic. The yellow-robed Empyrean's face immediately turned ashen and ugly. "You!" Clang. The sound of a sword was ear-piercing. The towering heaven's sword intent appeared beside Lin Tian, piercing through the void and piercing through the yellow-robed heavenly lord. The droplets of blood fell into the air and were a glaring sight. "Ah!" The yellow-robed Empyrean roared angrily. A dignified Empyrean was repeatedly injured by an Emperor-rank human. He could not bear it. With a loud roar, the nether divine light gushed out with a blue color. It circled around his body like a storm, making him seem unapproachable. "I'll kill you." He stared at Lin Tian and rushed over with a single step. With a punch, the entire space collapsed under the pressure. This was pure physical strength. It was extremely powerful and belonged to the Empyrean level of physical strength, far surpassing that of ordinary emperors. Lin Tianling smiled. The reincarnation diagram appeared and directly faced the Empyrean. He was also heavily injured before. However, while the yellow-robed Empyrean and the others were struggling in the crater, he had circulated the Sun Heart Sutra and Sun Nirvana technique together. His injuries were mostly healed, and he had recovered 90% of his battle strength. At this time, he used 90% of his battle strength to activate the reincarnation diagram of the monarch's domain. He immediately shattered the Empyrean's punch and sent him flying again. In the next moment, he stepped forward and appeared in front of the Empyrean. Just like before, he lashed out with his leg. Bam! This kick landed on the yellow-robed Empyrean's cheek and sent him flying again. Teeth mixed with blood fell out again. The yellow-robed Empyrean was extremely angry. He forcefully activated the underworld energy in his body, and several powerful Tao radiances surrounded him. "Kill." He stared at Lin Tian. His face became somewhat ferocious as he used several types of Tao radiances to suppress Lin Tian. Then he used 3 types of terrifying underworld divine abilities in a row. The light of the divine abilities covered the entire space. For a moment, there were cracking sounds as the void was crushed inch by inch. Even the chaotic light was struck out. Lin Tianling smiled. He faced the dense Tao radiances and divine abilities calmly as he pressed forward step by step. Clang! Beside him, a blinding Ling Tian sword aura appeared. It was an extremely powerful sword art from the Ling Tian sword manual. The moment it appeared, it exuded an incomparably terrifying sword aura, directly slashing down on the other party's Tao light divine ability. In an instant, the Tao radiances and underworld divine abilities that the yellow-robed Empyrean had used were all shattered into pieces. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian stepped forward. His figure flashed and appeared in front of the yellow-robed Empyrean again. "You bam!" Lin Tian raised his leg and lashed out again, landing fiercely on the yellow-robed Empyrean's cheek. To read the latest novel, please visit the website. Chapter 1303. Lin Tian did not show any mercy when he unleashed his kick. With a whip kick, even the surrounding space was shattered. His strength was frighteningly frightening. Bang! The yellow-robed heavenly master was sent flying again. He rolled for more than 2,000 feet and crashed into a large rock. He coughed out blood again. Lin Tian walked on the surface. His steps were very gentle as he approached the other party step by step. The yellow-robed heavenly master's body was surrounded by netherworld light. He stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Human, I'll take your origin next time. I'll make you suffer all the torture in the world," he said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he retreated and turned into a ray of netherworld light that rushed into the distance. He barely escaped from the crater. At this moment, his situation was very bad. More than half of his origin had been burned, and his cultivation had fallen to first stage heavenly venerable. His aura was so weak that he couldn't even compare to a 9th heaven emperor cultivator. The power in his body was almost dried up after releasing the killing light and several netherworld divine abilities. At this moment, facing Lin Tian, who was a 7th heaven emperor, he knew that he wouldn't have any chance of winning in a head-on battle. He chose to escape. With a whoosh, in the blink of an eye, this person was hundreds of thousands of feet away from this place. Lin Tian raised his head and smiled coldly. With a flash of his feet, he used the 9th stage yin-yang steps. As if he had teleported, he appeared in front of this person in the blink of an eye and intercepted him. The yellow-robed heavenly master was shocked. Only then did he remember that Lin Tian's speed was very fast. He wasn't much slower than him at his peak. "You get down?" Lin Tian on Dao raised his hand and slapped the yellow-robed heavenly master's face. With a loud slap, the yellow-robed heavenly master was slapped down from the void and smashed into the ground. The entire ground was instantly shattered into pieces. Lin Tian walked down from the void and arrived in front of this person in one step. He raised his leg and kicked this person's chest. With a crack, several of the yellow-robed heavenly master's ribs were broken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. "Human!" He roared fiercely, and his face turned ferocious. With a boom, the light of the underworld surged out of his body. It was like the flames of the underworld, as if it wanted to burn everything. "I will fight you to the death," he roared. He was a dignified Empyrean-level powerhouse who had lived for countless years. Now, he was being trampled under the feet of a young human of the later generation. This kind of humiliation was unbearable for him. Lin Tianling laughed and raised his right leg. Then, with a burst of power and the light of a divine ability, he ruthlessly pressed down again. Bang! Under this stomp, even though the yellow-robed heavenly sovereign had a heavenly sovereign-level physique, his chest caved in. His sternum had all been broken by Lin Tian. "You dare to challenge me in your current state? How do you do it?" Lin Tian looked down at the yellow-robed Empyrean. The yellow-robed Empyrean's expression was ugly. He was shocked and angry at the same time. His face was incomparably ferocious, and his eyes were filled with crazy killing intent. "Ant, I will definitely kill you." "Shut up." Lin Tian removed his right leg that was stepping on the other party's chest. This time, he clenched his fist and smashed it down fiercely. With a bang, this fist landed on the other party's chest, causing the ground to collapse several feet and dust to fly everywhere. Ah! Blood gushed out of the yellow-robed Empyrean's mouth. He could not help but let out a miserable scream. The aura emitted from his body instantly became even weaker. He stared at Lin Tian, his eyes bloodshot. "Human!" he roared. Hatred, killing intent, and anger intertwined. His ferocious face looked a little terrifying, like a malicious ghost. Lin Tianling snorted. He raised his leg and kicked, sending him flying 1,000 feet away. Cough! The yellow-robed Empyrean coughed up blood. The aura outside his body instantly became even weaker. He stood up from the ground with difficulty. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian stepped forward. With each step, he left behind afterimages. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of him. "You buzz!" Lin Tian made his move. This time, he directly activated the four-symbol seal. The 5-layered four-symbols Dao diagram immediately appeared and covered the yellow-robed Empyrean within it. The yellow-robed Empyrean trembled. He only felt the power in his body rapidly solidifying. In the blink of an eye, he could not feel it. Moreover, in the next moment, he could not even move his body. He was sealed by a powerful force. He stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. "Human, what did you do to me?" Slap. Lin Tian raised his hand and slapped him across the face, causing a few more of his teeth to fall out. He used the 5-layered four-symbols Dao diagram to seal all of the weakened yellow-robed Empyrean's power and imprison his body. Then his glabella lit up. A ray of divine sense light quickly flew out and rushed into the other party's sea of consciousness. It began to explore the other party's sea of consciousness. He wanted to know if there were any other Empyrean-level powerhouses besides the 11 Empyreans who had killed their way into this world. The yellow-robed Empyrean clearly felt Lin Tian searching his sea of consciousness. He immediately became even more furious. "Damn it, you!" Bang! Lin Tian swung his fist and ruthlessly smashed into this person's abdomen. This caused the other party to stop talking and let out a mournful cry. His divine sense entered the other party's sea of consciousness and traveled through it. Soon, he found what he was looking for. There are still 5 Empyrean-level powerhouses guarding the sealed dust ancient region. A faint light flashed in his eyes. From this person's sea of consciousness, he found that besides the 11 Empyrean-level powerhouses who had killed their way into this world, there were still 5 Empyrean-level powerhouses in the sealed dust ancient region. 2 of them were at the 2nd stage of the Empyrean level, 1 was at the 7th stage of the Empyrean level, and the last one was the most terrifying. He was already at the peak of the 9th stage of the Empyrean level, and was the most powerful existence in this generation of the Netherworld race. This caused him to be shocked. This race was indeed terrifying. There were actually 16 Empyrean-level powerhouses. Moreover, one of them had reached the very end of the Empyrean level and was much stronger than an 8th-stage Empyrean-level powerhouse. Human, the yellow-robed Empyrean roared angrily. His eyes were red and ferocious. Lin Tian coldly snorted and retracted his divine sense from the yellow-robed Empyrean's divine sense. With a thought, the 5-layered Tao diagram of the 4 symbols that enveloped the yellow-robed Empyrean instantly fused together, transforming into an even more dazzling and terrifying 4-symbol sealing diagram. He looked at the yellow-robed Empyrean and flicked his finger. The fused divine diagram of the 4 symbols immediately rushed into this person's sea of consciousness. Suddenly, the yellow-robed Empyrean trembled violently. The divine diagram of the 4 symbols rushed into his sea of consciousness and directly covered his soul. "Damn it! Stop! Ah!" This person screamed and struggled with all his might. Then, he let out a scream. Then, his voice completely disappeared. His soul was directly annihilated by the divine diagram of the 4 symbols. Only an intact flesh shell was left. Lin Tian looked at the other party's flesh shell, and a light flashed in his eyes. He intended to keep the other party's flesh shell so that he could use the Saint Refining Treasure technique to refine it for cultivation later. This was a heavenly venerable level body. If he used the Saint Refining Treasure technique to refine it, it could at least raise his cultivation by a small level. With a wave of his right hand, he put this heavenly venerable level corpse into the stone ring. In an instant, this place became completely silent. The 9 powerful Netherworld race Empyreans had all died here. Whoosh! A wind blew from afar, carrying withered yellow leaves with it. It seemed somewhat bleak and desolate. Lin Tian stood in place and looked back at the sinkhole in the distance. It still looked so normal. He couldn't feel anything and didn't feel any special aura. He looked there and paused for a few breaths. Then, he turned and walked into the distance. At this moment, he glanced out of the corner of his eye. Not far from the sinkhole, he suddenly saw a ray of bloody light flash. This made him stop in his tracks and stop walking. He tilted his head and looked at the place where the bloody light flashed. His eyesight was amazing. Even from tens of thousands of feet away, he could still clearly see the appearance of the object that flashed the bloody light. It was a fist-sized bloodstone that seemed to be condensed from blood. There were strands of black light intertwining inside it. Suddenly, his expression changed. That is, in his eyes, the light of the dragon pattern directly appeared. The divine eye of delusion opened and stared straight at the fist-sized bloodstone. In this bloodstone, strands of black light lingered, making it look incomparably dark. Even from tens of thousands of feet away, he couldn't help but feel a tingling sensation on his scalp. His divine soul in his sea of consciousness couldn't help but tremble violently. This black light was exactly the same as the black light that rushed up from the bottom of the sinkhole. In other words, it was even more terrifying. It could be said that the black light in this bloodstone was the essence of destruction of the black light of death that rushed up from the bottom of the sinkhole. This bloodstone is wrapped in this black light of destruction. Did it rush out from the other black lights of death in the sinkhole? He stared at the bloodstone in the distance and muttered to himself. At this time, looking at the bloodstone from afar and the black light of destruction inside, he felt that once the bloodstone exploded, the black light of destruction inside would rush out. Even a person at the end of the celestial venerable level would be swallowed up in an instant. What is this bloodstone? It can wrap around that black light of destruction without breaking. Really, he was a little shocked. The bloodstone was only the size of a fist. Looking at it from afar, he couldn't help but feel strands of bright light appear in his eyes. If he could take away the black light of destruction inside this bloodstone, it would definitely be a super killing weapon. He stood in place and intertwined his Emperor Chi. He grabbed a flying bird from afar. After restraining its ability to move, he waved his hand and threw it beside the bloodstone. The bloodstone contained that black light of destruction. He wanted to take it away, but he was worried that the black light inside would suddenly explode because of the presence of life, so he naturally wouldn't be rash. First, he used the flying bird with the presence of life to test it. The flying bird's ability to move was restrained. It landed beside the bloodstone and couldn't move at all. Then, more than 30 breaths passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, everything seemed normal. The black light of destruction inside the bloodstone didn't change at all. No problem. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. It seemed that when the bloodstone was in good condition, it could definitely wrap around the black light of destruction inside. Looking at the fist-sized bloodstone from afar, he paused in place for a long time. Then he moved. After taking a deep breath, he carefully approached the bloodstone. It was only after dozens of breaths that he arrived next to the fist-sized bloodstone. To read the latest novel, please visit the website. Chapter 1304. When Lin Tian came to the side of the fist-sized bloodstone, he immediately felt a chill run down his spine. His throat felt like it was being strangled by an invisible hand. His divine soul in his sea of consciousness couldn't help but tremble, unable to stabilize itself. This made his heart palpitate. This bloodstone was too terrifying. He stared at the bloodstone. Within it, a pitch-black light flickered. It was like a pitch-black flame that could destroy everything. He took a deep breath and carefully extended his hand, grabbing the fist-sized bloodstone. Crack! With a crisp sound, his arm cracked open on the spot. Blood flowed out. The bone-piercing pain instantly spread throughout his body. This caused his heart to palpitate even more. Although the black light within the bloodstone was unable to rush out because of the bloodstones wrapping around it, it still possessed such terrifying power. Just by holding the bloodstone, his emperor-level reincarnated physique began to crack. He gritted his teeth. Golden divine light intertwined. His cultivation of the seventh sky of Emperor Realm was fully unleashed. The dragon burial scripture was operated to the limit. Endless dragon marks intertwined and surrounded the bloodstone. However, even so, his arm was still cracking. Blood flowed out unceasingly. It was just that the cracks were lighter than before. This caused his heartbeat to involuntarily quicken. This bloodstone was a dozen times more terrifying than he had imagined. He took a deep breath again. Carefully and quickly, endless dragon marks wrapped around it. He quickly grabbed it and put it into the stone ring. Only then did he feel better. When he touched his forehead, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and released the bird beside him. Then he stood up. It's done. It's time to go. He muttered to himself. Tilting his head, he took one last look at the sinkhole not far away. Then he turned around and left. In a flash, he disappeared. Sealed dust, ancient region, nether sacred palace. Great ancestor. It's not good. Second patriarch, fourth patriarch, fifth patriarch, sixth patriarch, seventh patriarch, eighth patriarch, ninth patriarch, 10th patriarch, and 11th patriarch. All 9 patriarchs had their soul lamps extinguished. A terrified voice resounded in the netherworld's sacred hall. A netherworld race's ancestor king, who was infinitely close to the Empyrean realm, rushed into the center of the netherworld's sacred hall. He had come from the netherworld temple's soul hall, where the soul lamps of all the netherworld race's ancestral kings and Empyrean-level ancestral venerables were placed. As long as these people were alive, their soul lamps would never extinguish. But just now, within the soul hall, the soul lamps of 9 ancestral venerables had suddenly cracked open, their lights extinguishing. This meant that those 9 people had all died. What? In the central imperial palace of the Nether Temple, a terrifying heavenly master-level aura suddenly surged out, shocking everyone. With a poof, the netherworld ancestral king, who was infinitely close to the Empyrean realm, was shattered on the spot. Lin Tian left the desolate mountain where the sinkhole was located. In the blink of an eye, he was already far away. Golden divine light surged on the surface of his body as the Sun Heart Sutra and Sun Nirvana art circulated on their own. At this moment, his essence, chi, and spirit were restored to their peak state. Buzz! He raised his hand, tore open the void, stepped into it, and disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in the western region, more than 10,000 feet away from the Red Earth Plain. Kill! The Red Earth Plain was crowded with people. Blood dyed the ground red, and corpses piled up in small mountains. It was a shocking sight. Lin Tian came to this place again and saw the cultivators of the major sects charging and the immortal soldiers of the celestial court fighting fiercely. Many people were stained with dazzling blood. He moved his gaze and saw Bai Ziki and the others' monarch's region surging, and Lin Shi and the other girls' sea of consciousness surging. His family and friends were all fine. Boom! Boom! In the sky, astonishing divine power surged. An Empyrean-level aura overflowed. Lin Tian looked up and saw the purple fairy and the little Taichu fighting against the purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean nether. They occupied the absolute advantage and were almost suppressing the purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean lords. The purple great void, God-slaying light, and the six-colored divine light intertwined in every corner of the sky, shattering the endless thick clouds. It's time to determine the winner. Dragon light intertwined in his eyes as he opened his delusion breaker divine eye. He took out the heavenly treasure deity, slaying Bao, and directly used all his strength to form 2 killing arrows of the great path. They whizzed out and rushed straight towards the purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean lords of the netherworld. These 2 killing arrows gathered his nameless great path nomological laws. They were unparalleled in power and speed. They were like 2 primordial true dragons rushing up. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of the purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean venerables of the netherworld race. The purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean lords were shocked. They wanted to dodge, but because they were being suppressed by the purple fairy and the little Taichu and had been severely injured, their combat power was less than 30% of their peak state. At this time, they couldn't dodge even if they wanted to. Poof! Poof! The 2 killing arrows were extremely powerful. They gathered Lin Tian's great path laws and were launched with a heavenly treasure and pierced through the 2. The blood of the Empyrean lords splashed everywhere. Oh! The purple-robed and black-armored Empyrean lords roared. The 2 killing arrows were very powerful, but under normal circumstances, they wouldn't be able to hurt them. However, at this moment, they were severely injured and were far from their peak state. Being injured like this made them extremely angry. The purple fairy and the little Taichu both felt a familiar aura. They turned their heads and looked outside the Red Earth Plain. Then, they were both shocked and delighted. Boom! A powerful emperor's aura surged. Lin Tian walked out of the Red Earth Plain. Golden divine light was vast and mighty, and the reincarnation emperor's aura was monstrous. In an instant, all the cultivators on the entire Red Earth Plain were shocked. Celestial Emperor, the ancestral patriarch of the Saber Pavilion, and the ancestral patriarch of the Purple Seal sect were all shocked. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court were even more excited. Their leader had single-handedly lured away the 9 heavenly venerables of the netherworld race, as well as more than 90% of the netherworld race's combat power. Now, he had returned safe and sound. Bai Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others stopped fighting at this time. They turned their heads to look, and their eyes lit up. Brother! Lin Shi couldn't help but shout. The whooshing crocodile was the most excited. It waved its pair of claws. Since he came back safe and sound, that means it knew best why Lin Tian lured away the 9 Empyrean lords of the netherworld race. After all, it had seen Lin Tian set up a big killing trap with its own eyes. Now, Lin Tian had returned after luring away the 9 Empyrean lords of the netherworld. The outcome was self-evident. Golden divine light was vast and mighty outside Lin Tian's body. The powerful reincarnation emperor's aura spread in all directions and spread across the entire Red Earth Plain. The purple-robed Empyrean lords of the Netherworld race and the black-armored Empyrean lords looked at Lin Tian. They couldn't help but tremble. An ominous feeling rose in their hearts. "Where are the 9 people of my race?" The purple-robed Empyrean lord shouted. Lin Tian carried the immortal slaying bow and walked into the red earth plane. His aura became stronger. "Since I came back safe and sound, what do you think happened to the 9 of them?" "Naturally, they were all sent to hell." He looked at this person and sneered. The purple-robed Empyrean lords and the black-armored Empyrean lords couldn't help but tremble. Their eyes couldn't help but shake violently. "You killed them?" The black-armored Empyrean lord's eyes were like knives, but his voice was trembling. "That's impossible." He stared at Lin Tian, unwilling to believe Lin Tian's words. Lin Tian was only at the 7th heaven of the Emperor realm. Even the most powerful reincarnation body wouldn't be able to injure an Empyrean lord, let alone kill him. However, if the 9 of them didn't die, how could the reincarnation body that they had chased after together return to this place unscathed? Most importantly, at this time, he really couldn't sense the aura of the 9 people. "I don't believe it. An ant dares to talk nonsense. I'll suppress you personally." The purple-robed Empyrean lord shouted. With a boom, the Empyrean lord's aura was vast and mighty. This person erupted with a terrifying aura that pressed down on Lin Tian from the sky. "Who do you want to suppress?" A cold voice sounded. With a clang, the violet fairy attacked. The purple great void god slaying light pressed down and pierced through the purple-robed Empyrean lord. The Empyrean lord's blood splattered again. "Woman!" The purple-robed Empyrean lord stared at the violet fairy. Blood flowed from his mouth, and his expression was ferocious. The violet fairy snorted coldly. The great void god's slaying path was displayed. The sky was vast and mighty, like a purple galaxy pressing down on the other party. "Yeah!" On the other side, the little Taichu made a sound. The 6-colored divine light covered the sky. Because Lin Tian had returned safely, the little fellow was clearly very happy. At this time, the 6-colored divine light that was unleashed was several times stronger than before. It was truly a bit frightening. It sealed every space around the Netherworld race's black-armored heavenly lord. With a poof, the black-armored Empyrean lord couldn't dodge and was shattered on the spot. "Ah!" This person roared. He quickly condensed a physical body and stared at the little Taichu in shock and anger. His cultivation was clearly higher than the other parties, and he had walked further in the Empyrean lord level, but he couldn't stop the other party at all. From beginning to end, he was suppressed and beaten. He roared. His Empyrean lord's divine power surged. Several great path precepts gushed out together. The sky was shaken until it collapsed. This kind of momentum was undoubtedly very terrifying. At the same time, the black-armored Empyrean lord roared. He also released his strongest combat power. The killing light of the Great Path and the killing light of the supernatural powers appeared together. Crack! 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 The void collapsed inch by inch, and the shattered sky changed color. Lin Tian walked over from outside the crimson earth plane. Looking at the sky, the Emperor's might rose to the extreme. The Great Path precepts rolled like a galaxy and rushed out quickly. The heavenly treasure celestial slaying bow condensed 2 more powerful Great Path killing arrows. "Little Violet, Taichu, in them!" he shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, he released the bowstring. The 2 Great Path killing arrows flew out and rushed straight toward the purple-robed Empyrean lord and the black-armored Empyrean lord. The violet fairy and the little Taichu listened to Lin Tian's voice, and the aura outside their bodies instantly rose. Boom! Boom! The purple great void divine slaying light erupted like an ancient volcano, and the 6-colored divine light was like the original holy light of heaven and earth. The 2 were mighty at the same time, several times stronger than before. Following Lin Tian's 2 killing arrows, they rushed toward the purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean Lord. At the same time, the immortal soldiers of the immortal court and the powerhouses of the major sects all clenched their fists at this moment, and their battle auras soared. The immortal emperor has returned, and the 9 Empyreans of the evil alien race have been killed. Victory belongs to us. Kill! Kill all the enemies! The group of cultivators roared. To read the latest novel, please visit the website. Chapter 1305. Lin Tian lured away the 9 netherworld race heavenly venerables and then returned unscathed. This was undoubtedly a huge boost of morale for the immortal court's immortal soldiers and immortal generals. Since Lin Tian had returned unscathed, it meant that the 9 netherworld race heavenly venerables had all been killed. Moreover, Lin Tian had personally said that he had sent the 9 of them to hell. This made the immortal court's immortal soldiers and immortal generals and cultivators of various sects excited, and their battle auras soared. Kill! 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 The group of cultivators roared. Many of them were already very tired, but at this time, they still erupted with extremely powerful divine power. Zeki and the others propped up the monarch's territory and the spiritual seas phenomenon. The power of the heavenly treasure was also vast and mighty, and at this moment, it also rose greatly. For a moment, blood exploded one after another, and a large number of netherworld race cultivators were crushed. The battle here had gathered many experts, and the terrifying divine power was vast and mighty, intertwining in every corner. And the most intense was naturally the battle between the heavenly venerables in the sky. Whoosh! 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 Lin Tian held the immortal slaying bow and continuously shot out great Tao-killing arrows, quickly approaching the purple-robed heavenly venerables and the black-armored heavenly venerables. These 2 netherworld race heavenly venerables were very strong, much stronger than Lin Tian. But under the situation of being suppressed by the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu and being seriously injured, Lin Tian's great Tao-killing arrows were still a threat to them, or at least could injure them. While dealing with the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu, they also dealt with Lin Tian's great Tao-killing arrows. They became even more miserable than before, and their heavenly venerables' blood kept splattering. They roared again and again, and in the blink of an eye, their bodies were shattered several times in a row. Damn it! The 2 of them roared, and their heavenly venerables' divine power soared. The dark blue netherworld aura was like a vast ocean rolling, and they had truly exerted their full strength. Suddenly, the sky in this place kept collapsing with a rumbling sound. 2 dark blue divine powers filled every corner of this place. At this time, the 2 of them seemed to have turned into 2 gods of the underworld. They began to fight for their lives. The murderous intent outside their bodies seemed to want to tear everything apart. In the blink of an eye, chi-chi-chi sounds rang out. Even the air in this place began to be destroyed, the scene extremely terrifying. Lin Tian looked at the 2 of them from afar. He took a deep breath and put away the celestial slaying bow. The Heart Sutra of Sun was activated to the limit. Golden divine light burst forth. Then he propped up the reincarnation diagram and the Great Path nomological laws. The 2 merged, forming the reincarnation diagram of the Great Path. Buzz! The diagram of the reincarnation of the Great Tao filled the sky. It was his most powerful attack right now, and it headed straight for the 2 of them. Under normal circumstances, his diagram of the reincarnation of the Great Tao would not be able to threaten the purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean Lord. But now it could pressure the 2 of them. This was because the 2 of them were severely injured and had less than 20% of their combat strength left. He looked at the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu, the light of dragons intertwining in his eyes. Little Violet, Taichu, this attack will decide the outcome of the battle. When the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu heard this, the purple divine light and the 6-colored divine light around their bodies surged. Great Void God slaying, the Violet Fairy said in a low voice. With a clang, an incomparably brilliant purple light intertwined behind her. It was like a sword aura, As soon as it appeared, it exuded an incomparably terrifying aura. The surrounding great Tao trembled as if it was about to collapse. On the other side, the Little Taichu flapped its wings. The six-colored divine light was vast and mighty. The true dragon, immortal phoenix, black tortoise, and vermilion bird appeared directly outside its body. The four immortal spirits roared, and their voices shook the sky as if they were about to suppress everything. It was also at this moment that the purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean unleashed a vast Tao aura and a terrifying Empyrean level-killing technique. The vast sky was directly shaken and collapsed. Die! The two of them roared together. The faint blue killing light covered all directions. It was also at this moment that the violet fairy's great void killing light and the four guardian immortal spirits of the little Taichu pressed down together with Lin Tian's diagram of the reincarnation of the great Tao. Whoosh! 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 A series of soft sounds rang out. The Tao aura that the purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean Lord had unleashed was crushed strand by strand. Then, the great void-killing light, the true dragon, immortal phoenix, black tortoise, and vermilion bird all merged together with the diagram of the reincarnation of the great Tao. They turned into a terrifying killing sea that completely enveloped the purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean Lord of the Netherworld. The purple-robed Empyrean Lord and the black-armored Empyrean Lord were horrified. They quickly put up all their defenses and retreated into the distance, wanting to escape the killing sea. However, it was completely useless. They used all their methods and techniques, but they could not escape the killing sea. No! The two of them screamed. In the next moment, they were crushed to pieces. This was the fusion of the violet fairies, the little Taichus, and Lin Tian's strongest combat power. This time, after crushing the two Netherworld Empyrean Lords, the two of them did not have the chance to reassemble their bodies. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, and they completely disappeared from this world. At this moment, only the Empyrean blood mist fell from the sky. Patriarch! The cultivators of the Netherworld race cried out, each of them looking horrified. In this place, right in front of their eyes, two Empyrean lords of their race had been killed. At the same time, in this place, these cultivators of the Netherworld race remembered that Lin Tian, who had been chased by the other 9 Empyrean lords of their race, had returned here safe and sound. Lin Tian had said that the 9 Empyrean lords were all dead. These people became even more horrified. No, impossible. How could this be? The cultivators of the Netherworld race trembled. They had come here with the intention of slaughtering the human clan, enslaving the other clans, and unifying the land. But now, the 11 celestial venerable level patriarchs who had led them here had all been killed and died on this land. For the Netherworld race, this was simply a nightmare. No, it can't be like this. It can't be. The cultivators of the Netherworld race trembled and retreated on the battlefield. Their faces were incomparably pale. In this place, the battle auras of the cultivators of the Netherworld race were instantly weakened to the lowest point. Lin Tian stood in the sky. At this time, he had gathered together with the little Taichu violet fairy and looked down from the sky. Everyone, the 11 Empyrean lords of the Netherworld race have all been killed. We will definitely win this battle. Kill! He sent the imperial voice to the battlefield below. This voice was intertwined in every corner of this battlefield, causing the immortal court's immortal soldiers and cultivators of the great sects to become even more excited. Their battle auras soared again. Victory! Kill! Slaughter all the enemies of the foreign domain. Many cultivators roared. Compared to the Netherworld race, the immortal court's immortal soldiers and cultivators of the great sects were undoubtedly extremely powerful at this time. It was a stark contrast. Under this powerful battle aura, the immortal court's immortal soldiers and cultivators of the great sects roared. Their battle strength seemed to be even stronger than when they were at their peak. They crushed the cultivators of the Netherworld race like a murderous torrent. Ah! Miserable screams reverberated as the cultivators of the Netherworld race were killed one after another. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Tian stood in the sky. At this time, he took out the immortal slaying bow again and locked onto the few ancestral kings and emperors of the netherworld race who were infinitely close to the Empyrean realm. He drew the bow one after another, and dozens of terrifying great Dao-killing arrows shot out in a straight line. They were like dozens of angry dragons descending from the sky. With his current battle strength, he was truly invincible below the Empyrean realm. It wouldn't take much effort for him to kill those who were infinitely close to the Empyrean realm. At this moment, the great Dao-killing arrows were absolutely fatal to those below the Empyrean realm. In the blink of an eye, the few ancestral kings and emperors of the netherworld race who were infinitely close to the Empyrean realm were pierced through. Their bodies and souls were destroyed on the spot. Such a scene undoubtedly caused the battle chi of the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court and the cultivators of the major sects to skyrocket again. As if they had eaten a forbidden baodan, they roared loudly and killed the enemies madly. On the other hand, the cultivators of the netherworld race in this place were all pale. They couldn't help but tremble, and their battle chi became even weaker. Even though they outnumbered the immortal soldiers of the immortal court and the experts of the various sects, the situation was completely one-sided. Cultivators of the netherworld race were constantly being killed. Ah! Awesome! Kill! Beheading light! The great ancestor of the Saber Pavilion, the great ancestor of the purple branding Holy Land, the supreme elder of the Demon King Palace, and the other emperors of the top forces of the Ninth Heaven laughed at this time. These emperors of the top forces all knew about the netherworld race from the very beginning. They knew the history of the netherworld race and knew that countless years ago, the netherworld race had once invaded this world. At that time, this world was severely damaged. Countless creatures died tragically, countless families were destroyed, and the mountains and rivers almost fell. In the end, several supreme experts of the human race sacrificed their lives to seal the passage from the sealed, dust ancient domain to this world, saving this world. Now, after countless years, the netherworld race's ambition had not changed. They had found a new passageway and once again slaughtered their way in, vainly attempting to unify the 10 directions and enslave the 10,000 races. However, this time, there was an absolute difference from countless years ago. In just a few hours, the netherworld race's 11 celestial venerables had all perished. Several ancestral kings and dozens of powerful emperors who were infinitely close to the celestial venerable realm had also died tragically. Masses of netherworld race cultivators were slaughtered on the Crimson Earth Plain. At this time, each and every one of them was terrified and trembling. Such a battle and such a scene made them feel very relieved. Immortal Emperor, beautiful! The great ancestor of the purple branding Holy Land roared. Very beautiful! The ancestral master of the Saber Pavilion and the others roared and laughed. They all knew very well that the netherworld race's invasion this time was completely different from the endless years ago, because Lin Tian had informed all the great sects of the netherworld race's invasion a year ago. He had gathered everyone and started to prepare for the battle, allowing them to make all kinds of comprehensive plans for the battle a year later. It was also because Lin Tian had led away 9 Empyrean experts of the netherworld race by himself and killed them that they were sure to win. This victory belonged to this world, and it belonged to Lin Tian. Awesome! The ancestral masters of the great sects laughed. Lin Tian looked at the battle on the red earth plain from the sky. The netherworld race cultivators here had already been utterly defeated. He exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and called the Violet Fairy and the little Taichu to walk down from the sky. They came to the void crack on the red earth plain that had opened from the sealed dust ancient region and was ready to seal this void crack. This was because there were still 5 Empyrean experts of the netherworld race residing in the sealed dust ancient region. Moreover, one of them was already at the end of the Empyrean realm. If these 5 people attacked again, the battle situation could be directly reversed. He wanted to block these 5 people in the sealed dust ancient region. P.S. The third update will be at around 2300 hours p.m. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1306. The void tunnel that led from the sealed dust ancient region to this place was now circular in shape, with a diameter of about 150 feet. It was surrounded by strands of blue netherworld chi, which floated over from the sealed dust ancient region, causing the air around the void tunnel to become somewhat cold, and the temperature dropped by quite a bit. Lin Tian brought the Violet Fairy and Little Primordial here. He told the Violet Fairy and Little Primordial that there were still 5 Empyrean exalts from the Netherworld race residing in the sealed dust ancient region. He then said, "Lend me some of your strength. I will seal off this place and isolate those old bastards from the sealed dust ancient region." After killing the 9 heavenly venerables of the Netherworld race who had chased after him, he had used up a lot of his divine power, as the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu attacked the purple-robed Heavenly Venerables and the black-armored Heavenly Venerables. At this time, he did not have enough divine power to cast a spell to seal the Void Tunnel. He needed to borrow the divine power of the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the Violet Fairy's expression changed. Obviously, she was shocked that the Netherworld race still had 5 Heavenly Venerables in the sealed dust ancient region. Most importantly, there were people at the peak of the Heavenly Venerables. People at that level were very terrifying. Then, hearing that Lin Tian wanted to cast a spell to seal this place, she frowned slightly. Looking at the void tunnel in front of her, she said, "This tunnel is very sturdy. It should have been opened by someone at the Heavenly Venerables level. Also, the tunnel is engraved with strange Tao patterns. Ordinary power cannot seal it or destroy it. This must be at least a 9th-stage Heavenly Venerables to seal or destroy it." "I know." Lin Tian nodded. "We don't have any 9th-stage Heavenly Venerables here, but I have other methods." As he spoke, dense dragon patterns intertwined in his right hand. With a slight shake, he took out the bloodstone he had taken earlier. The surface of the bloodstone was covered with dense dragon patterns. Even so, one could still see the dark light inside. Wisps of terrifying aura intertwined, causing all the cultivators on the red earth plane to tremble involuntarily. The Violet Fairy and Little Taichu, who were very close to Lin Tian, both changed their expressions. "This is..." The Violet Fairy trembled, and cold sweat broke out on her beautiful forehead. At the side, Little Alpha Primordium's hair stood on end. "Yeah." The little guy's eyes widened as he recognized the black light in the bloodstone. He shuddered. Back then, it had followed Lin Tianyi and discovered the sinkhole. It had felt the power of the black light rushing up from the bottom of the sinkhole at close range. It was so terrifying that it made one's hair stand on end. Crack! With a crisp sound, Lin Tian's right hand began to crack. Even though the bloodstone had isolated the power of the black light within, and even though there were countless dragon patterns intertwining on the outside, his emperor-level reincarnation physique was still unable to bear holding this bloodstone. Holding the bloodstone, he quickly said to the Violet Fairy and the Little Taichu, "Give me your divine power quickly." As he held the bloodstone, his arm continued to crack. Blood continuously flowed out. He could not hold on for much longer. "All right," the Violet Fairy said. At this time, she did not hesitate. Purple divine power gushed out and surged toward Lin Tian. At the same time, Little Taichu brought out his 6-color divine power. The power of the divine and divine powers intertwined and surged into Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian's emperor physique trembled slightly. He immediately felt the majestic power in his body. He took a deep breath, and the light of the dragon patterns intertwined in his eyes. He opened his divine eyes of delusion breaker and threw the bloodstone into the spatial tunnel in front of him. Then his hands quickly formed seals at a speed that was not visible to the naked eye. With the help of the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu's Celestial Master level divine power, he activated the Dragon Burial Scripture. Immediately, dense dragon patterns intertwined. There were tens of thousands of these dragon patterns. Each of them was like an ancient divine chain. One end quickly wrapped around the fist-sized bloodstone, stabilizing the bloodstone in the spatial tunnel, while the other end entered the walls of the spatial tunnel. The dragon patterns quickly intertwined and evolved. Wong! He quickly formed seals. In his eyes, the light of the dragon patterns shone brightly. He stared straight ahead, forming a mystical dragon pattern. Just as the Violet Fairy had said, the passageway in front of them was very sturdy. Only a level 9 celestial venerable could truly seal it or destroy it. He had sensed this when the passageway was first opened, so he didn't think of sealing it or destroying it. With their strength, it was impossible to do so. However, it was different now. He had obtained the bloodstone that contained a terrifying black light from the crater. He could clearly feel that this bloodstone could affect the stability of the spatial tunnel. After the bloodstone was placed horizontally in the spatial tunnel to weaken the stability of the spatial tunnel, it only needed the cultivation of an emperor level to seal this spatial tunnel. 1. The speed at which he formed seals became faster. Endless dragon patterns gathered and soon formed a huge dragon burial array. The dragon burial array intertwined with the brilliant light of the dragon patterns, sealing the entire spatial tunnel. The bloodstone was stabilized at the center. All right. He stopped forming seals and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The process was very fast, but it consumed an astonishing amount of divine power. The divine power that the Violet Fairy and Little Taichu had injected into his body was almost completely exhausted. The Violet Fairy looked ahead and sized up Lin Tian's dragon burial array diagram. She paused for a moment and frowned. This array diagram is very powerful. It has indeed sealed off this passageway. However, it seems that it can only block those below the Empyrean rank. There are heavenly venerable level figures in the Netherworld race in the sealed dust ancient region. People of this level can easily break this array. Lin Tian nodded. Indeed, if someone above the heavenly venerable level were to make a move, it would be very easy to break this array. As he spoke, he continued, however, at the same time, the bloodstone that I inlaid in the center of the formation will also explode. As soon as he said this, the Violet Fairy's expression changed. Little Taichu could not help but tremble. Really? The Violet Fairy asked. As powerful as she was, she could clearly feel the terror of the pitch-black light contained within the bloodstone. Once it exploded, even a person who had reached the end of the Celestial Sovereign level would definitely be swallowed up in an instant. Really? Lin Tian nodded. The Violet Fairy could not help but gasp, but then she laughed again. It was very cute, as expected of my Lord Big Brother. You really know how to play. Boom! Suddenly, 5 terrifying auras of the Netherworld intertwined from the other side of the spatial tunnel. They were all at the heavenly venerable level and were very powerful. In particular, one of the heavenly venerable level auras was so terrifying that it was somewhat frightening. It was as if a giant of the stars was walking over from the other side of the world. P.S. Well, I have returned the 8 chapters that I owed during the Spring Festival. I even added the interest of 1 chapter. Then I will make up for the chapters that I owed during the break next month. When the time comes, I will tell you at the end of the chapter. For the next few days of this month, it will be 2 chapters a day. Finally, thank you for your support. To read the latest novel, please visit the website. Chapter 1307. 5 powerful waves of divine power swept out from the sealed dust ancient region behind the space tunnel. It was like 5 torrents of killing intent were surging. The aura was heart-palpitating, and all the cultivators on the battlefield on the Crimson Earth plains were shocked. Lin Tian, the Violet Fairy, and the Little Taichu were also shocked. They stared at the space tunnel with furrowed brows. Then, in the next moment, 5 figures appeared on the other side. Each of them had the aura of a celestial master. It was very shocking, especially the person in the lead. His eyes were extremely deep, as if he had come from the ancient times. It was very frightening. The remaining 5 celestial masters all jumped out so quickly. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, but then he sneered again. Fortunately, the timing was right. He had used the bloodstone to block the space tunnel opened by the Netherworld tribe. With the bloodstone blocking the front, he did not care about the 5 Netherworld heavenly masters who had jumped out at this moment. There really are 5 other celestial masters. The Violet Fairy stared at the 5 people on the other side of the space tunnel. Her gaze fell on the person in the lead, and her eyes narrowed. The end of the Celestial Masters. Staring at this person, a sharp light flashed in her eyes. She clearly felt this person's strength, but she did not show the slightest fear. The little Taichu stared at the other side and widened his eyes. The space tunnel was blue. Lin Tian used the Dragon Burial Array and the Bloodstone to block it, but the scene on the other side of the array could be seen clearly. At this time, the 5 Netherworld Heavenly Masters who were coming here could see very clearly. Boom! The aura of a Celestial Master was vast and mighty. Behind the Dragon Burial Array, in the sealed dust ancient region, the figures of the 5 Netherworld Heavenly Masters approached from afar. The Netherworld aura was like a rolling sea. Great Ancestor, 3rd Ancestor, 14th Ancestor, 15th Ancestor, 16th Ancestor. Great Ancestors. This is great. The Great Ancestor will come personally. We will win. On the Crimson Earth Plains, a group of Netherworld tribe cultivators became excited at this moment. These Netherworld tribe cultivators knew very well how powerful their great ancestor was. At the end of the Celestial Master level, he was countless times stronger than an 8th-stage Celestial Master. He alone could sweep through everything and could be called invincible. This clan has 5 Celestial Venerables? How could this be? On the other hand, Old Ancestor Purple 2 and the other experts from the other sects were shocked. They couldn't help but tremble. They had just gone through a great battle and annihilated 11 Celestial Venerables from the Netherworld race. The scales of victory had already tipped in their favor. But now, another 5 Celestial Venerables from the Netherworld race had appeared and were about to cross over. This caused the faces of the cultivators from the various great sects to turn ugly. If these 5 people were to cross over, the situation of the battle would directly change. At the same time, Bai Ziki, Wuxing Crocodile, Lin Shi, and the others were also stunned by this scene. There are 5 more Celestial Venerables? Wuxing Crocodile gritted its teeth. Rumble? After the spatial tunnel, Celestial Venerable's Netherworld chi rolled. The Netherworld Great Ancestor and the others were approaching from afar at an extremely fast speed. These 5 people were originally guarding the sealed dust ancient region. However, they had received a report from a Netherworld Great Ancestor that the Netherworld Second Ancestor and the other Celestial Venerables had extinguished their Celestial Venerable soul lamps. All of them were shocked and could not sit still for a moment. They all charged over. Boom! 5 powerful Celestial Venerables' auras intertwined. In the next moment, the 5 people arrived behind the Dragon Burial Array diagram in the blink of an eye. 5 pairs of eyes were somewhat cold and cruel. Great Ancestors. On the Crimson Plain, the Netherworld race cultivators shouted excitedly. They were waiting for the Netherworld Great Ancestors to kill their way over. Ants, inferior races, all of you must die. A Netherworld race half-step emperor looked at the various great sex experts and said sinisterly, "All of you must die. Our great ancestor will personally come and kill all of you. The 10 Heavens region will be unified by our Netherworld race." The group of Netherworld race cultivators clamored. In an instant, the Netherworld race cultivators whose battle chi was low suddenly became excited. Each of them stared coldly at the various great sex cultivators as if they were looking at corpses. Their battle chi skyrocketed. Purple Brand Old Ancestor and the other great sex experts looked even more unsightly. Many of them could not help but clench their fists. Clang! An ear-piercing sword sound reverberated. Beside the spatial tunnel, Lin Tian waved his hand with his back, facing the group of Netherworld race cultivators. The sky was filled with sword rays that intertwined and fell into the group of Netherworld race cultivators like a rain of swords. Instantly, patches of bloody mist exploded one after another. The Netherworld race experts who were clamoring just now, including a few half-step emperors, all died tragically in an instant. This caused Purple Brand Old Ancestor and the others to tremble. They all tilted their heads and looked at Lin Tian. Then, their eyes lit up again. At this moment, the Netherworld race's strongest great ancestor had appeared. As the other four Netherworld heavenly sovereigns were about to attack, they could not help but tremble. However, Lin Tian was still so domineering. He did not even look at the clamoring Netherworld race cultivators and directly swung his sword to kill them. He killed them in front of the Netherworld great ancestor and the others who were about to attack. This was truly domineering. In their eyes, Lin Tian did not have a trace of fear at this moment. Such boldness was admirable. As expected of an immortal emperor, the legendary Saber Pavilion's old ancestor said. The Netherworld race cultivators' faces turned ugly. Many of them looked at Lin Tian with sinister eyes. A half-step emperor coldly said, "Human ant, our great ancestor will..." Clang. An ear-piercing sword chime interrupted this person's words. Lin Tian waved his hand with his back, facing this person. The towering heavens sword aura swept across and killed this person. At the same time, even more sword lights crisscrossed. Around him, the towering heavens sword aura swept across the entire Scarlet Earth plane. It indiscriminately attacked every Netherworld race cultivator who lived here. In the blink of an eye, it created a bloody mist. Ah, damn it! Our great ancestor will definitely kill you. Arrogant human. On the Scarlet Earth plane, the Netherworld race cultivators screamed and cursed. However, they were all cut into pieces one by one. On the other side of the spatial tunnel, the Netherworld great ancestor and the others' gazes were incomparably cold. At this moment, the five of them were staring at Lin Tian. Reincarnation physique. The Netherworld great ancestor's voice was icy cold. He naturally knew that there was a reincarnation physique on this side of the world. Moreover, he knew that Lin Tian had caused havoc in the sealed dust ancient region. At this moment, he stared at Lin Tian with a cold and strange light in his eyes. Their Netherworld race had slaughtered their way into this side of the world in order to unify all sides. However, the most important reason was to suppress the reincarnation physique and obtain the reincarnation origin. Once he obtained the reincarnation origin, he only needed a small portion of it to break through to a higher level. At the same time, he did not forget that several Empyrean experts of his race had extinguished their soul lamps when they entered this side of the world. Furthermore, because Lin Tian had killed his clansmen in front of him, his Empyrean level aura surged. He directly raised his hand and grabbed at the dragon burial array diagram that Lin Tian had arranged in the spatial tunnel. Netherworld aura surged. Great ancestor, you must kill them all. Inferior human, do you think a single array diagram can stop our great ancestor's footsteps? You think too highly of yourself. On the Red Earth plane, a group of Netherworld race cultivators roared. Their expressions were incomparably cold and sinister. They had all seen the dragon burial array diagram that Lin Tian had blocked in the spatial tunnel. They could also feel the power of this array diagram. However, at this moment, all of them were disdainful and had a mocking expression on their faces. How could such an array diagram block the most powerful great ancestor of the Netherworld race? Their great ancestor was a peerless figure who had reached the end of the Empyrean level. The ancestral patriarch of the Saber Pavilion and the others all looked solemn. Many of them were nervous. Another 5 Empyreans. Prepare to fight to the death. Even if we die, we can't let this race have it easy. We must make them pay a great price. The ancestral patriarchs of the major sects gritted their teeth. All the experts in this region of the heavens clenched their fists and prepared to face the Netherworld race's great ancestor and the others who were about to kill their way in. Rumble. Inside the spatial tunnel, behind the dragon burial array diagram, the Netherworld race great ancestor's eyes were cold. His large hand intertwined with endless Netherworld aura and landed directly on the dragon burial array diagram. Reincarnation origin. All 10 heavens belong to my race. All of you are only. The Netherworld race great ancestor's voice was cold and indifferent. However, in the next moment, he trembled violently and stopped speaking. As if he had been struck by lightning, he staggered back dozens of steps. great ancestor. Beside him, the other four netherworld heavenly venerables were shocked. At the same time, the netherworld race cultivators on the red earth plane were shocked. Great ancestor. Many people couldn't help but cry out. The strongest existence of their race, the person who had reached the end of the Empyrean level, had actually staggered back dozens of steps the moment he got close to the array diagram in the spatial tunnel. Even the ancestral patriarch of the Saber Pavilion and the others were shocked. They could feel the terror of the netherworld race great ancestor. All of them tensed up and prepared for the netherworld race great ancestor to tear apart the dragon burial array diagram and kill his way here in the next moment. However, at this time, the scene in front of them stunned them. The moment the powerful and terrifying netherworld race great ancestor came into contact with the array diagram laid down by Lin Tian, he staggered back as if he had been struck by lightning. Everyone was shocked. Inside the spatial tunnel, behind the dragon burial array diagram, the netherworld race great ancestor steadied himself. Cold sweat flowed down his forehead, and his pupils twitched violently. He stared at the dragon burial array diagram and the blood-colored stone in the center of the array diagram. This is... His pupils constricted, and his voice trembled slightly. Just now, when his big hand fell on the dragon burial array diagram and was about to tear it apart, the blood-colored stone in the center of the dragon burial array diagram trembled. In an instant, he felt an extremely terrifying aura. In the dark, vaguely, he seemed to see a destructive, ferocious beast rushing over and swallowing him into its stomach. That feeling was too terrifying. Even though he had reached the end of the Empyrean level, he still felt waves of fear. His divine soul was trembling, and several cracks had appeared on it. Lin Tian stood on the red earth plane and remained calm. At this time, he looked at the netherworld race great ancestor and sneered. How is it? Is it fun? P.S. The second update is around 2200 hours p.m. To read the latest novel, please visit the website. Chapter 1308. Lin Tian sneered and spat out the words. How is it? Is it fun? With a hint of mockery and sarcasm, the netherworld clan grand ancestor behind the dragon burial array trembled again. His face turned ashen involuntarily. Grand ancestor, what's wrong? The other four netherworld clan heavenly venerables were puzzled. They followed the netherworld clan grand ancestor's gaze to the dragon burial array. Their gazes fell on the bloodstone at the center of the array. They activated their powerful divine consciousness and scanned it at the same time. Then in the next moment, the four of them trembled violently. This is... The four of them could not help but tremble. Cold sweat dripped from their foreheads. Their divine souls jumped violently, and chills ran down their spines. They looked at the bloodstone. In the center of the bloodstone, wisps of pitch-black light leaped about as if they could devour the world. They only scanned it with their divine consciousness, and they felt as if their divine souls were about to shatter. Their hearts beat wildly. The four of them trembled slightly. They were all heavenly venerables who had lived for a long time. Their state of mind was very profound. Generally speaking, they would not show too much emotion. But now, looking at the bloodstone that was only the size of a fist, their emotions fluctuated violently. Their pupils could not help but twitch violently. They felt that the black light in the bloodstone was like a ferocious beast that could devour the sky. At the same time, on the Crimson Earth plane, Patriarch Purple Totem and the others were also puzzled. They scanned the dragon burial array in the space tunnel with their divine consciousness. They did not understand why the array engraved by Lin Tian would frighten the five heavenly venerables. Soon, the group's divine consciousness came into contact with the bloodstone at the center of the dragon burial array. All of them trembled. The group of experts palpitated. Some of them could not help but take a step back. Their clothes were instantly drenched in cold sweat. This thing, the Immortal Emperor, set it up inside. Where did the Immortal Emperor find it? It's simply the source of destruction. The patriarchs of the great sects were shocked. At this time, The whooshing crocodile also saw the fist-sized bloodstone. When it saw the black light within the bloodstone, its eyes immediately widened. F***CK. It trembled and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. That thing inside, isn't that the black light at the bottom of the sinkhole? No, it was even more terrifying than those black lights. Did this brat obtain such a thing from the heavenly pit? This is simply, both it and the little Taichu had seen how terrifying the crater was. They had seen the black light of death rushing up from the bottom of the crater. It could really devour everything. At this moment, when it saw the bloodstone that Lin Tian had placed in the space tunnel and the black light in the bloodstone, it naturally recognized it immediately. Its expression immediately changed. On the other side by Ziki, Fanning Xiong, Yang Qi, and the others were all visibly shaken. Clearly, they were all terrified by the bloodstone. Where did this guy find this thing? By Chiu, Jiyu, and the others leaned against each other in shock. Lin Shi shrank her neck. It's very scary. In the space tunnel, on the other side of the dragon burial array, the 5 netherworld race heavenly venerables all had ugly expressions on their faces. They stared at the bloodstone in the center of the dragon burial array, and the fear in their eyes was extremely obvious. You placed it here? What is this? The netherworld grand ancestor stared at Lin Tian with extremely cold eyes. They were like 2 heavenly blades that wanted to devour Lin Tian. As he said that, he looked at the bloodstone in the center of the dragon burial array and could not help but tremble again. This fist-sized bloodstone made him feel fear that he had not felt for a long time. Moreover, it was a fear that he had never felt before. It's obvious that I placed it here. As for what it is, there's no need to tell you. Lin Tiandao. The netherworld grand ancestor's eyes turned even colder. You used it to set up the seal and wanted to use it to stop us from crossing over? Lin Tiandao said, that's obvious. His voice was very calm, which undoubtedly made the netherworld grand ancestor's eyes turn even colder. Do you think that it will be able to stop me just by relying on it? The netherworld grand ancestor said coldly. 2 rays of piercing cold light shot out from his eyes. They were like destructive killing swords that shook one's soul. The terrifying pressure of a heavenly venerate spread out, causing the great Tao to tremble. His aura was extremely powerful. I can't stop you? Lin Tianling smiled. You can try to destroy it, or destroy the seal array that I set up. I can guarantee that the consequences will be very exciting for you. You! The netherworld grand ancestor's face suddenly turned ashen and very ugly. In fact, with his cultivation, how could he not see the consequences of destroying the bloodstone? It would definitely devour him in an instant, and his body and soul would be destroyed on the spot. There could be no other outcome. Destroying the dragon burial array set up by Lin Tiandao would also cause the bloodstone to explode. He could see that the other end of the dragon patterns were wrapped around the bloodstone. Destroying any one of the dragon patterns would cause the bloodstone to shatter and devour him. On the other hand, the dragon burial array was very powerful. Without reaching the heavenly venerate realm, it was impossible to break it. Now, in the entire sealed dust ancient region, only he and the other 4 heavenly venerate ancestors could destroy this array. That was to say, if they wanted to kill their way here from the sealed dust ancient region, they would have to lose at least 1 heavenly venerate powerhouse. This price was too great. Nothing to say? Lin Tianling smiled. As soon as the 4 words fell, the sonorous sound of swords rang out beside him. Dense and mighty sword lights streaked toward the netherworld race cultivators on the Crimson Earth plane. Suddenly, the netherworld race cultivators on the plane were met with disaster. They exploded one after another, and blood splattered in the air. Ah! Patriarchs, save me! Save us! The netherworld race cultivators screamed. Inside the spatial tunnel, behind the dragon burial array, the gazes of the 5 netherworld race heavenly venerate powerhouses suddenly became incomparably bone-piercing. Lin Tiandao had actually started to mercilessly slaughter their clansmen in front of them. Human, The Netherworld Grand Ancestor's gaze was like a knife, containing astonishing killing intent. His powerful aura shook the spatial tunnel, as if it would collapse in the next moment. That powerful aura was daunting. Lin Tiandao felt the terror of this person. Feeling the other party's killing intent, his internal organs could not help but turn cold. However, his expression did not change, and there was not the slightest bit of fear. Facing the other party's cold eyes and bone-piercing killing intent, he sneered. With a thought, more sword lights appeared, turning into a rain of sword lights that continued to slash toward the Netherworld race cultivators on the Crimson Earth plane. Chapter 1309. Lin Tian's voice was very calm as it spread across the entire Crimson Earth plane, shocking the generals and experts of the Immortal Court. Then, the eyes of the group of experts gradually lit up. Whether or not there are more heavenly venerables here, this battle must continue. Follow the Immortal Emperor to kill the enemy. Kill! The patriarchs of the major sects roared. In the blink of an eye, the generals of the Immortal Court and the cultivators of the various great sects on the Crimson Earth plane moved again. Waves of powerful divine might pierced through the sky and shrouded the cultivators of the Netherworld race. In the blink of an eye, blood splattered everywhere. Invading our territory and being ambitious. Kill them all? An Immortal Court quasi-emperor roared. Kill! 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 Nearby, the other immortal soldiers and generals of the Immortal Court and experts of the major sects roared in agreement. Their battle auras became more intense. For a time, all kinds of killing lights filled the entire battlefield. There were many Netherworld race cultivators on the Crimson Earth plane, more than the Immortal Court generals and experts of the major sects combined. But at this time, they were powerless to resist. Lin Tian blocked the space tunnel and stopped the 5 heavenly venerables from the Netherworld race who suddenly appeared. Moreover, he slaughtered the Netherworld race cultivators in front of the 5 heavenly venerables. This calmness and strength gave the Immortal Court and experts of the major sects greater encouragement. The intense battle aura made the Netherworld race cultivators tremble. Patriarchs, help! No! Some Netherworld race cultivators screamed and cried for help. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. Lin Tian stood in front of the spatial tunnel and looked indifferently at the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others behind the Dragon Burial Array diagram. Towering sword rays appeared beside him, densely packed together, and slashed towards the Netherworld race cultivators on the Crimson Plains. He was a truly invincible existence below the heavenly venerables. The towering sword rays he slashed out were naturally very powerful. Even ordinary emperors couldn't withstand it. Immediately, another group of Netherworld race cultivators exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. It was a shocking sight. The screams of the Netherworld race resounded through the sky. Inside the space tunnel, behind the Dragon Burial Array diagram, the eyes of the Netherworld Great Ancestor and others turned even colder. Human, the 5 of them stared at Lin Tian. Their gazes were like heavenly blades, and their killing intent was even more shocking. Their clansmen had been mercilessly slaughtered before their eyes, and the one who had led all of this was Lin Tian. At this moment, looking at Lin Tian, they wanted nothing more than to crush Lin Tian to death. Since you jumped onto our side to slaughter us, you should be prepared to be slaughtered. Lin Tian didn't care about these 5 Netherworld celestial venerables' gloomy eyes and ice-cold killing intent. He looked at the 5 of them and sneered. You only have yourself to blame for your wild ambitions. Yeah, little Taichu barked, echoing Lin Tian's words. The eyes of the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others turned even colder. They stared at the Dragon Burial Formation in the space tunnel and the Bloodstone in the center of the formation. They could not help but clench their fists. The Netherworld Grand Ancestor glanced at the Netherworld race cultivators who were being slaughtered on the Red Earth plane. Then his eyes fell on Lin Tian. Where are the 11 of my clan? He could see that Lin Tian was the center of this battle. Previously, in the sealed dust ancient region, 9 heavenly venerable soul lamps had been shattered. They had come to this place to observe this world through the dragon burial array diagram, but they had not seen any trace of the other two. They couldn't even sense their auras. At this time, he directly asked Lin Tian, "Take a guess?" Lin Tian naturally knew that the 11 mentioned by the Netherworld Grand Ancestor was referring to the 11 heavenly venerables who had led the Netherworld race's cultivators into this place. At this time, he looked at the Netherworld Grand Ancestor with a sneer. Seeing Lin Tian's attitude and the sneer on Lin Tian's face, the Netherworld Grand Ancestor's face turned even colder. "You. Enough." Lin Tian spoke again, interrupting the Netherworld Grand Ancestor. Strands of dazzling dragon light intertwined in his right hand, turning into another dragon formation array diagram. He struck it toward the space tunnel. "If you have the guts, kill me. If you don't, go back to your Netherworld Sacred Hall. When I enter the Heavenly Venerate realm, I will personally pay you a visit." Buzz! He intertwined a new dragon burial array diagram and condensed the seal formation array diagram. He struck it into the space tunnel and directly isolated this world from the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others with the special fluctuation of the bloodstone in the space tunnel. They couldn't see the other side of the dragon burial array diagram from here, and they couldn't see this side from the other side of the dragon burial array diagram. "Kill." After doing all this, he turned to look at the battlefield and once again issued the Emperor's voice to the immortal court's generals and experts of the major sections. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The immortal court's generals and experts of the major sects responded in unison, and their battle chi became stronger. For a time, saber light, sword light, and fist shadows intertwined in all directions. The tyrannical power shattered the Netherworld race cultivators one after another. In the space tunnel, on the other side of the dragon burial array diagram, the vision of the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others was blocked because of the bloodstone in front of them. Even with their cultivation, they couldn't see the other side of the world at this time. "Damn it!" The 5 of them gritted their teeth. Those 11 people are really all. The 16th patriarch of this lineage gritted his teeth. When they were still in the Netherworld Sacred Hall, they received a report that 9 of the 11 celestial venerables who left the sealed dust ancient region had their soul lamps shattered, which indicated that those 9 people were already dead. They came here in anger, but they couldn't see any of the 11 people. Except for the 9 whose soul lamps were shattered, they couldn't sense the auras of the other 2 people at all. When they thought of the sneer on Lin Tian's face when he said, "Take a guess," the answer was obvious. Those 11 people were all dead. The 5 of them all had ugly expressions on their faces. "Bastard." The Netherworld Grand Ancestor gritted his teeth and stared at the bloodstone in the center of the dragon burial array diagram in front of him. If this bloodstone was not in front of him, he would have immediately stepped over and torn Lin Tian to pieces. However, because this bloodstone was in front of them, they couldn't do anything in the end. "Ah!" The Netherworld Grand Ancestor roared, his killing intent shaking the sky. Boom! On the crimson earth plane, divine light intertwined, and battle cries shook the sky. Puff! 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 Blood mist continued to splatter as the Netherworld race cultivators died, tragically one after another. "Patriarchs, save us!" The Netherworld race cultivators screamed miserably. Just now, when the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others appeared, the group of Netherworld race cultivators became excited. They glanced coldly at the experts of the great sects, feeling that the appearance of the invincible patriarchs of their race would definitely sweep through and slaughter everything. All the Netherworld race cultivators' battle chi surged. But now, these Netherworld race cultivators were terrified once again. They were even more terrified than before. Their strongest patriarch and the other 4 patriarchs were actually blocked on the other side. How can this be? Impossible. The bodies of the Netherworld race cultivators trembled. After seeing the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others appear, they were full of confidence that they could turn the situation around. But now, the Netherworld Grand Ancestor and the others were blocked on the other side, unable to cross over. Their confidence was directly shattered, and the soaring battle chi was instantly extinguished, and they became even weaker than before. In the blink of an eye, a large number of them were killed by the experts of the great sections. Kill. Slaughter this group of foreign enemies. Kill them all. The generals of the immortal court and the experts of the great sects shouted in unison. Everyone's battle chi surged. Lin Tian looked at the battlefield, watching the generals of the immortal court fighting hard, watching the experts of the great sects fighting bravely, watching Bai Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others crushing the netherworld race's experts one by one, and watching Lin Shi, Ji Yu, and the other girls unleashing their divine light. His eyes couldn't help but intertwine. Now, in this place, the defeat of the netherworld race was doomed. He looked at the Violet Fairy and said, "In the other great domains of the ninth heaven, there are several netherworld ancestral kings and other experts infinitely close to the Empyrean realm. Little Violet, you get rid of them. Little Taichu, and I will go to the lower heavens." More than 10 million cultivators of the netherworld race rushed into this place. Led by 11 Empyreans, more than a dozen netherworld ancestral kings infinitely close to the Empyrean realm, and other powerhouses, their combat power spread across the entire first heaven to the ninth heaven. Now, the 11 Empyreans have all died, and the netherworld ancestral kings infinitely close to the Empyrean realm are also dead. However, in the other great domains of the ninth heaven and the lower 8 heavens, there are still netherworld ancestral kings infinitely close to the Empyrean realm wreaking havoc. Among the people participating in the battle, only he, the Violet Fairy, and Little Taichu can kill powerhouses of this level. Okay. The Violet Fairy nodded and said to Lin Tiandao, "Be careful." After saying that, she smiled at Lin Tianyi and disappeared in the next moment. Obviously, she went to other places in the ninth heaven. Lin Tian looked at the red earth plane with a faint golden light in his eyes. "Little guy, let's go to the lower heavens," he said to Little Taichu. The little guy responded in a childish voice and jumped on his shoulder. Lin Tian looked at the red earth plane for the last time. He glanced at his subordinates, the powerhouses of the various great sects, and his relatives and old friends. Then, he directly tore the heavenly barrier and stepped into it with the little Taichu, disappearing into the dark void. In the next moment, the boundless darkness disappeared, and light reappeared in front of him. He and the little Taichu appeared in the 8th heaven. Boom, boom, boom. Amazing divine energy intertwined in this world. He saw the figures of the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court. They were fighting in groups, displaying the joint attack techniques he personally taught them, tearing apart the powerhouses of the netherworld race one after another. At the same time, he saw many great forces of this world fighting bravely against the enemy. Their battle auras were very strong. Blood mist splashed everywhere, and the cultivators of the netherworld race were torn apart one after another. However, at the same time, many cultivators in this heaven also died tragically, dyeing a large area of land red with blood. He stood in the void and saw a small village from far away. There were no cultivators in it, only ordinary people. A group of netherworld race cultivators killed their way into the village. An old man with a crutch in the village didn't even have time to react before he was chopped into pieces by a netherworld race cultivator. Blood splattered everywhere. A piercing cold light flashed in his eyes. The Emperor's aura of samsara soared into the sky, and a heavenly sword light appeared in the blink of an eye. It mercilessly slashed out, instantly crushing the group of netherworld race cultivators who rushed into the village. This Emperor's aura, it's the aura of the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor is here. His Emperor's aura was extremely powerful. Many immortal generals of the immortal court who rushed into this heaven felt it and became excited. Chapter 13:10. Feeling Lin Tian's Emperor's pressure, the generals of the immortal court in the 8th heaven were all excited. The immortal Emperor is here. Brothers, kill. Kill. The immortal Emperor of the immortal court will settle everything. In this heaven, many generals of the immortal court roared loudly. At the same time, many powerhouses of the major forces in the eighth heaven also felt Lin Tian's emperor's pressure. Some of them even saw Lin Tian standing in the sky, and they couldn't help but feel excited. They knew that Lin Tian was the strongest powerhouse on their side, the lord of the immortal court. In the past, he suppressed the dark turmoil alone. Now that Lin Tiansha had entered this heaven, they couldn't help but feel relieved, and their fighting spirits soared. Kill! 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 Many cultivators roared, and their fighting spirits soared. Their offensive power also became stronger. Lin Tian stood in the sky and could see far into the distance. He watched the generals of the immortal court and the many experts of this heaven domain fighting the experts of the netherworld race and defending this territory. His eyes shone brightly. Boom! At this time, in a place far away in this heaven, a powerful emperor's pressure surged, and the netherworld aura was very terrifying. Lin Tian turned his head, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The netherworld ancestor king. He looked in the direction where the netherworld emperor's pressure rushed out and stepped over. In the next moment, he arrived outside a large mountain range. As far as the eye could see, the mountain range ahead was overflowing with blood and many corpses. There was a tall figure in the sky, and the Nether Emperor's aura was surging. He was trapped by dense killing runes, as if he was locked in a cage. Ants, do you really think these killing runes can really trap this king? In just a moment, this king will obliterate all of you. The figure trapped in the killing runes said coldly. His eyes were ruthless. He was an ancestor king of the netherworld race who was infinitely close to the celestial venerable realm. Netherworld energy surged out of his body, and his tyrannical emperor power rolled, causing the killing runes in the void to tremble and slowly disintegrate. This kind of emperor power was very terrifying. Don't be complacent. My clan's Lord Immortal Emperor has already descended upon this heaven domain. You are nothing. Lord Immortal Emperor will definitely kill you. In the mountain range, a quasi-emperor said through gritted teeth. This person's body was dyed in blood. Blood was also flowing out of his mouth, but his expression was incomparably resolute, without the slightest bit of fear. He worked together with a group of other powerful immortal generals, supporting several powerful killing formations. Dense killing patterns covered the entire area. The killing might was extremely shocking. This kind of killing formation was known as the Eternal Killing Formation, which was engraved by Lin Tian. The quasi-emperor of the immortal court here had obtained several Eternal Killing Formation platforms from Lin Tian. Now, he was working together with other experts of the immortal court to activate these killing formations, trapping the netherworld race's ancestral king of the netherworld within and temporarily restricting him to this mountain range. Boom! These eternal killing formations weren't complete, but their might was still very strong. It was enough to easily kill a ninth heaven emperor. At this moment, a total of several eternal killing formations interweaved and spread out in all directions. The killing light was like a vast ocean. However, although this killing power was terrifying, it couldn't kill the netherworld ancestral king, who was infinitely close to the heavenly venerable realm. At most, it could only temporarily trap him. A bunch of ants? The netherworld ancestral king's eyes were piercingly cold, and the netherworld emperor's power outside his body became denser, causing the killing patterns to tremble. In the next moment, sizzling sounds rang out as the densely packed eternal slaughter runes were shattered by the netherworld ancestor king. Lowly race, how dare you go against me? I'll kill all of you, this person said coldly. Rumble. The netherworld emperor's power outside his body was vast and mighty, mercilessly drowning the generals of the immortal court here. The emperor's power was terrifying, and the killing intent was terrifying. It was also at this moment that a loud clang was heard. Outside of the mountain, a ray of golden sword light pierced through. It was extremely powerful and directly crushed the netherworld monarch's attack towards the immortal court's generals. Who is it? The netherworld ancestral king's expression changed, and he looked in the direction where the golden sword light came from. At the same time, the experts of the immortal court also looked over. Then, they couldn't help but be overjoyed when they saw an extremely familiar figure. It was Lin Tian, Lord Immortal Emperor. The experts of the immortal court became excited. At the most critical moment, their leader had arrived. Lin Tian walked over from outside the mountain and looked at the experts of the immortal court. Well done. If it weren't for the immortal court's immortal soldiers and immortal generals who trapped the netherworld ancestral king here, a large area of this heaven region would definitely be destroyed, and countless cultivators would die tragically. After all, someone who was infinitely close to the heavenly venerate level was extremely terrifying. Many of the immortal soldiers and immortal generals were seriously injured. He looked at them and waved his right hand, and a large amount of golden divine light sprinkled down. This was an emperor-level divine light. When it landed on the immortal court's immortal soldiers and immortal generals, their injuries were healed in the blink of an eye. Thank you, Lord Immortal Emperor. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals were excited. Lin Tian nodded at the crowd. Then he looked at the netherworld ancestral king in the sky and walked toward him. It's you, the human race's reincarnation body. Seeing Lin Tian, the netherworld ancestral king gritted his teeth, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This clan had slaughtered their way here, wanting to unify the world and suppress Lin Tian to seize the reincarnation origin. This person naturally knew of Lin Tian, and also knew of the series of things that Lin Tian had done in the sealed dust ancient region. He had destroyed an ancient path that they had expended endless effort to excavate, and he had even brought along the Emperor Heavenly Tribulation to wreak havoc in the first Lord of the Netherworld. Do you think that after destroying that ancient road, our race won't be able to kill our way here? Ridiculous. This person looked at Lin Tian and sneered. At the same time that the ancient path was being excavated, a few ancestors of my clan personally worked at another location and opened up another passage. Back then, when you destroyed that ancient path, it was just a futile effort. It was completely useless. The person looked at Lin Tian with a hint of sarcasm in his words. Lin Tian looked at the person without any emotion. His feet flashed, and in the next moment, he appeared in front of the person. The person's expression suddenly changed. He was shocked by Lin Tian's speed. You slap! Lin Tian raised his hand and directly slapped the person's cheek, sending him flying hundreds of feet away. The netherworld ancestral king coughed up blood and stabilized himself hundreds of feet away. He looked at Lin Tian again with shock and anger. He was shocked because his cultivation was infinitely close to the heavenly venerable realm, much higher than Lin Tian's cultivation. But just now, he didn't see Lin Tian's movements at all. He was angry because Lin Tian actually slapped his face. This was really unbearable. He glared at Lin Tian, his eyes full of killing intent. You should have slap. The slap was loud and clear, interrupting the person's words. Lin Tian silently appeared in front of the person and slapped him again. The netherworld ancestral king was sent flying again. This time he rolled thousands of feet away. A few of his teeth fell out, floating in the air with blood. It was very eye-catching. So strong. Lord Celestial Emperor is so strong. In this big mountain, the group of immortal soldiers and immortal generals were excited. They couldn't help but clench their fists. A person who was infinitely close to the celestial venerable realm, who had been so arrogant before, was now slapped twice by their leader, as if he was a chicken or a dog. This made these immortal soldiers and immortal generals very excited. In the sky, thousands of feet away, the netherworld ancestral king, who was sent flying, roared, "Human, I'll kill you." After being slapped twice by Lin Tian, the netherworld ancestral king's face became ferocious. With a boom, he took out a middle-grade heavenly treasure sword. A blinding, killing light burst out, shaking all directions. Creaking sounds could be heard as the space around them began to collapse. Lin Tian looked at this person without any emotion. He took a step forward and appeared in front of the other party again. He stretched out his left hand and used the weapon control technique to forcibly take the other party's heavenly treasure. He raised his right hand and slapped him again. With a loud slap, the powerful netherworld ancestral king was sent flying thousands of feet away again. He coughed out a large amount of blood, which floated in the void. The person stabilized himself in the distance. He was extremely angry, but then he became terrified. After 3 consecutive slaps, the heavenly treasure sword was taken away. This made him extremely angry, but because of this, he could clearly feel how terrifying Lin Tian was. He could definitely crush him easily. He looked at Lin Tian and couldn't help but retreat. He burst out a monstrous netherworld emperor's power and rushed into the distance. Feeling how terrifying Lin Tian was, he felt powerless and chose to escape. He even gave up the heavenly treasure sword that Lin Tian took away. He only wanted to save his life. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the person rushed hundreds of thousands of feet away. Lin Tian looked up and shook his left hand slightly. The power of the seal of the 4 symbols surged and directly erased the weapon spirit in the heavenly treasure sword in his hand. He also branded it with his own divine sense. Then he swung his hand. The heavenly treasure sword, which had its weapon spirit erased, suddenly let out an ear-piercing sound like the birth of a real dragon. It rushed toward the netherworld ancestral king with a whoosh. Poof! Ah! He used the weapon control technique to control the heavenly treasure sword. Its speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it caught up with the netherworld ancestral king who had fled hundreds of thousands of feet away. It stabbed into his chest and caused him to explode with a scream. Then, his feet swayed and he came to the place where the other party exploded. He raised his right hand and intertwined the god transformation talisman. He slapped at the other party's surviving spirit that was preparing to escape again. No, stop, poof! Lin Tian was expressionless. He would not show mercy. The god transformation talisman pressed down and directly crushed this person's spirit. His spirit was destroyed. So powerful. In the mountain, the immortal court's immortal soldiers and immortal generals were excited. Lin Tian stood in the void and looked at the immortal soldiers and immortal generals. He said, "All of you go to other places in this heaven and fight. Join the cultivators of other major forces in this heaven and kill all the netherworld race in this heaven." Yes, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals shouted in unison. They immediately rushed to other places in this heaven with excitement and excitement. Chapter 13:11. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the little Taichu responded in a childish voice. The next moment, a crack appeared in the heavens. "Yeah!" The little guy called out to Lin Tian again. With a flap of its wings, it disappeared into the crack and went to the 7th heaven. Lin Tian watched the little guy leave, then glanced at the 8th heaven. With a wave of his right hand, he tore apart the heaven's barrier, pulled out a space crack, and stepped straight into it. The next moment, he appeared in a new world. There were giant mountains and rivers here, and the spiritual chi was very good. The 4th heaven, he muttered to himself. As soon as he entered this heavenly domain, he stood in the sky and immediately heard the intense battle cries. Intense waves of divine might intertwined in every corner. The immortal soldiers and generals of the immortal court were fighting with the cultivators of the netherworld race who had entered this heavenly domain. The pungent smell of blood intertwined in every corner of this heavenly domain. Looking around, he could see the situation of the battle in this heavenly domain at a glance. Even though he had informed the major clans of the netherworld race's invasion a year in advance, allowing them to be prepared, and even though a group of powerful immortal generals of the celestial court had entered this heavenly domain to fight, the netherworld race was still at the top of the battle in this heavenly domain. This was because the netherworld race was very powerful. Among the people who entered this heaven, there were existences who were infinitely close to the celestial venerable realm. There were also more than a dozen people above the quasi-emperor realm. In terms of overall combat strength, they were much stronger than this heaven. Boom! He stood in the sky, looked at this heaven from afar, and directly emitted a powerful emperor's aura. As soon as the emperor's aura was released, the sky trembled. This is the aura of the celestial emperor. The celestial emperor has come to this heaven. In this heaven, a group of immortal generals of the immortal court instantly felt the emperor's aura, and all of them were overjoyed. The celestial emperor is here. We will definitely win. Kill. Kill this group of foreign races. All the generals of the immortal court who sensed Lin Tian's imperial might in every corner of the heavenly domain had their battle chi surging. For these generals of the immortal court, Lin Tian, the lord of the immortal court, was equivalent to their faith and support. Lin Tian stood in the sky, and his emperor's aura spread out. His emperor's divine sense spread out as well, scanning the entire heaven region. Clang, clang, clang. The ear-piercing sound of swords rang out. He stood in the sky, and densely packed sword radiance appeared. It was truly like a rain of swords, flying towards every corner of the heavenly region. The speed was astonishing, like the lightning of the swordway. In the next moment, blood mist exploded in every corner of the celestial domain. One by one, the netherworld race cultivators were killed. This is little brother Lin. No, he should be called an immortal emperor. In this region of heaven, among the experts of the great races who were in the midst of killing, there were a few elder-level experts of the barbarian race who saw Lin Tian. Their eyes lit up involuntarily. Don't think too much. Follow little brother Lin to kill the enemy. Kill! A few barbarian race experts shouted and rushed into the netherworld race army. Clang, clang, clang. With Lin Tian as the center, sword light spread out in all directions of this region of heaven, killing the netherworld race cultivators one by one. In the blink of an eye, the netherworld race cultivators in this region of heaven could not help but show fear. Boom! Murderous intent surged, and netherworld emperor's power intertwined. A tall figure rushed up from the south of this region of heaven and into the sky. This was a netherworld ancestor king who was infinitely close to the heavenly venerable realm. When he saw the netherworld race cultivators being killed by the sword light, he rushed up along the sword light and arrived in front of Lin Tian. It's you. Reincarnation physique. Seeing Lin Tian's appearance, the netherworld ancestor king's expression changed. Obviously, he knew of Lin Tian's existence. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked at this person. You saved me the time of looking for you. His expression was calm, and he arrived in front of this person in just one step. This netherworld ancestor king was shocked by Lin Tian's speed. You buzz! Divine light intertwined. Lin Tian did not show mercy and directly propped up the reincarnation diagram of the monarch's territory, pressing down on this person. The reincarnation diagram was extremely powerful. With his seventh firmament emperor cultivation, even though this netherworld ancestor king was infinitely close to the heavenly venerable realm, he could not resist at all. In the blink of an eye, he was crushed by the reincarnation diagram. His body and soul were destroyed. Lin Tian didn't care about the person he had just killed. He spread out his divine will once again in the sky. At the same time, he took a step forward and moved around the area. He swept down the dense sword rays and killed the cultivators of the netherworld race one by one. In the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour passed, and he stopped. It's about time, he muttered to himself. In less than a quarter of an hour, he walked around this region of heaven and used his powerful emperor chi to kill more than half of the netherworld race cultivators in this region of heaven. Among the netherworld race cultivators who still lived in this region of heaven, the most powerful one was only at the third firmament of the Nirvana realm, and there were not many of them. With this level of combat strength, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court who came to this region of heaven were enough to wipe them out. After all, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals who entered this region of heaven were led by quasi-emperors. There were also many Nirvana realm immortal generals, and each of them had cultivated the combination formation technique and emperor divine ability. I'll leave it to you. End the battle as quickly as possible. He transmitted his voice to the immortal court generals in this region of heaven with his emperor divine ability. Yes, Sir Immortal Emperor. Everyone kill. Raise your combat strength to the peak, and end all the enemies of the foreign domain as quickly as possible. The immortal court generals roared, all of them excited, and their battle intent surged. Lin Tian stood in the sky and watched as the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court flooded towards the experts of the netherworld race in this region of heaven like a surging wave. It was almost as if they were pushing through everything. He nodded to himself. The next moment, he tore apart the heavenly barrier and left this region of heaven. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the sky of the third heaven. Like the fourth heaven, this region of heaven was filled with intense battle cries and the stench of blood. He did not hesitate. After arriving in this region of heaven, he unleashed his Emperor Divine ability. Across the two major territories of this region of heaven, Prosperous Continent and Barbarian Land, he slashed down countless sword lights, killing the netherworld race experts one by one. Reincarnation body? Soon, the ancestor king of the netherworld race, who entered this region of heaven, discovered Lin Tian. Two rays of light flashed across his eyes, and with a mighty Emperor Divine ability, he charged directly at Lin Tian. Suppressing the reincarnation body was the highest order given by the ancestors of their race. This person rushed towards Lin Tian and said coldly, "Obediently surrender. You can save yourself from physical." Clang! A sword cry shook the sky, directly interrupting this person's words. Lin Tian made his move. With his seventh firmament Emperor Divine ability, he executed an extremely tyrannical killing technique of the High Heaven Sword Scripture. It evolved into a heavenly sword aura that cut through space and directly pierced through this person's forehead. With a puff, this netherworld race expert exploded on the spot. Even his divine ability was cut into pieces. He died just like that. Lin Tian glanced at the place where the netherworld race cultivator exploded. Across this heaven, even more sword lights shot out, killing even more netherworld race cultivators in this heaven. Just like in the fourth heaven, more than half of the netherworld race cultivators were wiped out. Not long after, he appeared in an immortal mountain, tens of thousands of feet away from the main gate of the Emergence Dao sect. As far as the eye could see, the Emergence Dao sect was fine. He nodded inwardly and felt relieved. He had killed more than half of the netherworld race cultivators who had barged into this region of heaven. The remaining ones were no longer a threat. The immortal court generals who had come to this region of heaven were enough to wipe them out. At this time, he directly tore open the barrier of the heavens. He took one last look at the Emergence Dao sect in the distance and then directly stepped into it, disappearing on the spot. The next moment, he appeared in the second heaven and killed the netherworld race's ancestor, who was infinitely close to the Empyrean realm. After killing more than half of the netherworld race experts and confirming that the Bai family was fine, it was rumored that the immortal court generals who had come to this region of heaven would end the battle as soon as possible. Then, he tore open the barrier of the heavens and entered the first heaven. After entering the first heaven, he released a powerful Emperor-level divine sense and was slightly surprised. There were almost no shouts of killing in this region of heaven. Moreover, within the range of his divine sense, there were almost no netherworld race cultivators. Moreover, he didn't see many immortal soldiers and immortal generals from the immortal court who had entered this region of heaven. He frowned slightly and urged an even more astonishing Emperor-level divine sense. Exerting all his strength, the powerful divine sense almost enveloped the entire first heaven. Then, in the next moment, his expression changed again. He took a step forward and appeared at the foot of the Burning Sun sect. When he arrived here, he looked around. At the foot of the Burning Sun sect, blood flowed into a small river. Corpses of the netherworld race were scattered everywhere, and the smell of blood was extremely strong. "Ah! Help! No!" The screams were particularly mournful. There were many netherworld race cultivators here. They were all covering their heads and scurrying away in fear. In the void, outside the Burning Sun sect, 9 swords of light crisscrossed. Each of them was extremely terrifying, killing cultivators from the netherworld race one after another. Even the current Lin Tian felt his scalp go numb from the terrifying might of those swords. Puff, puff, puff. Blood splattered everywhere. This place was filled with Netherworld race experts. They were almost all of the Netherworld race experts who had rushed into this region. At this moment, under the slash of the 9 swords of light, they were shattered into pieces and died one by one. When Lin Tian saw this terrifying scene, his pupils couldn't help but constrict. Something left behind by the old man. He felt the aura of an old drunkard from the 9 light swords. It was frightening. Ah! Ear-piercing screams were heard as the Netherworld race cultivators exploded one by one. After dozens of breaths, the place quieted down. All the Netherworld race cultivators here were dead. Clang! Chapter 13:12. Lin Tian stood outside the Burning Sun sect, lost in thought as he watched the 9 light swords sink into the mountain below the Burning Sun sect. These 9 light swords were too terrifying. He felt that even an ordinary celestial venerable would die on the spot if they were hit by one of these swords. Although this old man has left temporarily, he must have set up many big tricks here. He muttered to himself. After a pause, he stepped closer to the Burning Sun sect and walked up. Sir Immortal Emperor? Senior Brother Lin Tian? There was a group of people on the Burning Sun sect. There were immortal soldiers and generals of the Immortal Court, as well as the supreme elders of the Burning Sun sect. They were all standing in the center of the Burning Sun sect, looking at the foot of the mountain. When Lin Tian approached, he was seen by everyone on the spot. Lin Tian strode forward at a very fast speed. In the blink of an eye, he had climbed the steep stone steps at the foot of the Burning Sun sect. Greetings, Sir Immortal Emperor. The immortal soldiers and generals saluted. Among them, a quasi-emperor general of the Immortal Court stepped forward and reported, "We originally came to help guard this place, but the 9 killing swords here are too powerful. Instead, we hid inside and watched." As he said this, the powerful quasi-emperor and the other generals of the Immortal Court were a little embarrassed. They knew that the Burning Sun sect in the first heaven was of great significance to the Lord of the Immortal Court. Therefore, after entering this heaven, many experts of the Immortal Court came here to help guard the Burning Sun sect. Not long after, a large number of Netherworld race cultivators came here to kill. At that time, they had just rushed out to fight with some disciples of the Burning Sun sect when 9 killing swords rushed out of the mountain where the Burning Sun sect was located and killed a large number of Netherworld race experts on the spot. No one could stop them. After that, it was unknown how the other Netherworld race cultivators found out about this matter. A group of Netherworld race powerhouses who had killed their way into this region gathered here in batches, including a person who was infinitely close to the Empyrean realm. They wanted to find out what was going on here and break through. However, all the Netherworld race experts who approached this place with hostility and killing intent were all killed by the 9 light swords. Even the Netherworld Ancestor King, who was infinitely close to the Empyrean realm, was chopped into a pool of blood the moment he approached this place. He did not even have the slightest ability to resist and fell at the foot of the Burning Sun sect. Then, the group of Netherworld experts howled miserably. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. The 9 killing swords sealed off the void and suppressed everything. The group of Immortal Court generals who came here forcibly returned to the Burning Sun sect. The Burning Sun sect's supreme elder and the others stared blankly at the foot of the Burning Sun sect's mountain. They watched as the 9 killing swords crisscrossed and killed the Netherworld race cultivators one by one. As expected of the sect of Sir Immortal Emperor's teacher, our coming here was completely unnecessary. This quasi-emperor was a little embarrassed. The group of generals came here full of fighting spirit, but in the end, they were dumbfounded as they watched a killing scene at the foot of the Burning Sun sect. It's fine. It's fine as long as you're safe. Lin Tiandao. Not to mention these Immortal Court generals. Even he, a 7th Heaven Emperor, was dumbfounded when he saw the 9 killing swords. Lin Tian, the Supreme Elder of the Burning Sun sect, walked over, followed by the Burning Sun sect master and several elders of the Burning Sun sect. Lin Tian stepped forward and bowed. Supreme Elder, Sect Master, Elders. Good, good, good. The Supreme Elder of the Burning Sun sect smiled. I heard from some friends of the Immortal Court that you spent a lot of effort to resist the Netherworld race's invasion this time. You united the entire 1st to 9th heavens to resist them. You're very powerful. The old man's cultivation was not bad, but he still had the same benevolent smile as before, like an old grandfather leading the family. As expected of senior brother's disciple, the Burning Sun sect master said, "Kid, you're very good." Tu Cheong stepped forward and patted Lin Tian's shoulder. Now, Lin Tian was already an immortal emperor who suppressed the dark turmoil by himself, and his fame resounded throughout the 10 heavens. However, these people of the Burning Sun sect still thought that Lin Tian was the disciple of an old drunkard, and Lin Tian was the disciple of the Burning Sun sect. It's barely okay. Lin Tian smiled modestly. In the Burning Sun sect, he chatted with the Supreme Elder, the Burning Sun sect master, and the others about many things. He told them about the current situation of the war, and then left. At the same time, he ordered the Immortal Court generals of the Burning Sun sect to clean up the remnants of the Netherworld race in this heaven. After that, he went to the Valley of the Harp, the Northern Flame General's Mansion, the Northern Flame Imperial Palace, the Nine-Yang Martial Palace, and other places. There were powerful Immortal Court generals guarding each place. Yu Wushuang, Ji Yuanshan, Mu Qing, and the others were all safe and sound. He heaved a sigh of relief, and his eyes shone brightly. From the 1st heaven to the 2nd heaven, the 3rd heaven, the 4th heaven, the 5th heaven, the 6th heaven, the 7th heaven, and the 8th heaven, killing more and more Netherworld race cultivators in these heavens before returning to the 9th heaven and returning to the Red Earth plane. During this process, little Taichu naturally met up with him and returned to this place together. Boom! Here, the battle cries continued, because this was the first battlefield that the Netherworld race cultivators entered. It was the primordial battlefield, and most of the Netherworld race cultivators gathered here. At this time, they had not been killed yet. He came here and glanced around. Lin Shi, Ji Yu, and the other girls were killing the enemies together. Heavenly treasures hovered above their heads, sweeping away everything. Bai Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others opened their monarch's territory and heavenly treasures, and the Netherworld race cultivators here were unstoppable. At the same time, Patriarch Purple Totem and the others were Emperor Realm experts. They were incomparably powerful, and their palms shattered everything. At the same time, he saw Violet Fairy from afar. She had already returned here, and her great void god-slaying light was peerless. He smiled, stepped into the battlefield, and displayed the heavenly sword scripture, which swept across all directions. As the heavenly sword radiance spread out, blood mist exploded one after another, and the Netherworld race cultivators were killed one by one. Immortal Emperor, Patriarch Purple Totem, and the others looked over, and their eyes lit up. Then, the killing light they unleashed became even stronger. Lin Shi, Ji Yu, and the other girls by Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others naturally noticed Lin Tian's return at this time, and their eyes lit up. Now, Lin Tian had returned here after entering the lower heavens. There were many things that they didn't need to think about to know. It must be the situation in the lower 8 heavens, and victory was already in his grasp. In the other large heavens of the 9th heaven, I've finished off all the Netherworld race cultivators above the Great Dao realm. Violet Fairy looked at Lin Tian Dao. There aren't many Netherworld race cultivators in the lower 8 heavens now. Most of them have been killed. Lin Tian said to Violet Fairy. Yeah. Little Taichu blinked, and then called out in a childish voice. Then, the 3 of them attacked at the same time. All kinds of killing lights spread out, enveloping the entire Red Earth plane. Ah! Screams continued, and blood mist exploded. The Netherworld race cultivators on the Red Earth plane died tragically one by one. At this time, among the Netherworld race cultivators, there wasn't even an ordinary Emperor Realm cultivator left. How could they resist Lin Tian and the others? They were as fragile as tofu, and one by one, They exploded under the killing light of Lin Tian and the others. Blood splattered everywhere like rain, almost dyeing the void red. Soon, 15 minutes passed. On the red earth plane, the screams disappeared, and the surroundings became quiet. All the netherworld race cultivators here were killed. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past, full of the smell of blood. As far as the eye could see, the vast red earth plain was filled with corpses piled up into mountains, and blood flowed into rivers. It was a ghastly sight. The battle here is finally over. Patriarch Purple Totem sighed. The patriarchs of the various great sects gathered together and quickly came to Lin Tian's side. Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the other women, by Ziki, Wuxing Crocodile, and the others also came over at this time. The other battles are almost over. Let's wait here. Lin Tian on Dao. Dark clouds floated in the sky, and the wind was blowing. It was very bleak. The group of experts stood here. Soon, an entire day passed. At this time, the sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. A quasi-emperor expert of the Immortal Court arrived in the blink of an eye. Reporting to the Immortal Emperor, the netherworld race in the eastern region has been wiped out. This person stopped about 10 feet in front of Lin Tian and bowed. Good. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of light. The patriarch of the Saber Pavilion and the others couldn't help but clench their fists. Another battle had ended, and they had won. Good news comes one after another, Lin Tian said. He stood on the red earth plain with golden light in his eyes. Soon, more than 2 hours passed, and 3 quasi-emperors of the Immortal Court rushed here. Reporting to the Immortal Emperor, the netherworld race in the northern region has been wiped out. Reporting to the Immortal Emperor, the netherworld race in the southern region has been wiped out. Reporting to the Immortal Emperor, there is no longer a single netherworld race in the western region. The 3 quasi-emperors came in front of Lin Tian and reported. Then, not long after, the sound of something breaking through the air sounded again, and 8 quasi-emperors of the Immortal Court rushed here again. Reporting to the Immortal Emperor, the netherworld race in the 8th heaven has been wiped out. The 7th heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 6th heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 5th heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 4th heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 3rd heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 2nd heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 1st heaven has wiped out the netherworld race. The 8 quasi-emperors spoke one after another. Their voices floated above the red earth plain, and it was as loud as thunder, causing the clouds in the sky to disperse a lot. For a time, on the red earth plain, the bodies of the experts of the major sects trembled slightly. We won, an ancestor of the major sects murmured. We won, someone shouted. Suddenly, the generals of the Immortal Court and the experts of the major sects were all excited and couldn't help but roar. We won! We won! We killed all the enemies of the foreign domain. We have to guard our lands and rivers. Our legacies and the foundations left behind by our ancestors have all been perfectly preserved. Chapter 13:13. The cultivators were excited. The netherworld race had come from the other side. The battle had lasted for a short time. They had won. We won. We won. This is our victory. A few cultivators were trembling, finding it hard to control themselves from excitement. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with a faint light. The battle was over. The netherworld race's passage to this side was sealed, and all the netherworld cultivators who had entered this side were killed. The eyes of the patriarchs of the major sects also flickered with divine light. Then, many of them turned their heads and looked at Lin Tian. Celestial Emperor, this time, it's all thanks to you. Patriarch Purple Scorpion looked at Lin Tian and said seriously. That's right. If the Celestial Emperor hadn't informed us a year in advance that the netherworld race would be coming, if the Celestial Emperor hadn't led the 9 celestial venerables of the netherworld race away and sealed the spatial passage with the strange stone, and if the millions of soldiers of the Immortal Court hadn't killed the enemies from the 1st heaven to the 9th heaven, we wouldn't have won this battle. Yes. The other patriarchs of the major sects echoed. The patriarchs of the major sects all had solemn expressions. Many of them bowed to Lin Tian. On behalf of this territory and our respective inheritances, we thank the Celestial Emperor and the Immortal Court. The patriarchs of the major sects said. The patriarchs of the major sects stood together and expressed their gratitude because this time they had indeed relied on Lin Tian. Everyone, please don't be like this. Please stand up straight. We were able to win this battle because of everyone's joint efforts, not because of one person and one sect. Lin Tian stopped the patriarchs from bowing. Then his eyes dimmed. Besides, we have other things to do now. As he spoke, he looked at the battlefield. There were bloody corpses on the ground. Most of them were the corpses of the Netherworld race, but there were also the corpses of the experts of the major sects and the Immortal Court soldiers. Now that the battle with the Netherworld race was over, their first priority was to retrieve the corpses of the Immortal Court soldiers and the cultivators of the major sections. They would bring them back to bury them. The ancestors glanced at the battlefield and saw the corpses. They clearly knew what Lin Tian was thinking and understood Lin Tian's intention. Their expressions became slightly dejected. Let's do it, everyone. Find the corpses of our disciples who died in battle and bring them back to their respective sects for burial. Lin Tiandao. As it should be. Old Ancestor Purple 2 sighed. Immediately, the experts of the major sects began to search for the corpses of their sects on the battlefield. Lin Tian, by Ziki, and the others followed the generals of the Immortal Court and personally searched for the corpses of the generals of the Immortal Court. As for the corpses of the Netherworld race cultivators, the group of powerhouses used the same method. They directly crushed them into dust. Very soon, the Crimson Plain was cleared. There were no more corpses on the ground, only blood staining the ground red. The ground had sunk by more than 100 feet, and there were potholes everywhere. There were remnants of divine power, fluctuations everywhere. I'm afraid that not even a blade of grass will grow in this place for 10,000 years. Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian nodded. The battle here was too intense. The vitality in the ground had been completely crushed, and there were remnants of various Tao laws of slaughter. Saying that not even a blade of grass would grow in the next 10,000 years was already a very conservative judgment. Everyone, let's part ways here for now. We'll return to our sects and bury our disciples who died in battle. Lin Tian said to Old Ancestor Purple 2 and the others. Old Ancestor Purple 2 and the others nodded one after another. After exchanging a few words with each other, they led their disciples and left. I'll return to the Demon King Palace. AI will follow me this time. After that, we'll return to the Ethereal Mountain. If you have time, come to the Ethereal Mountain to play. Violet Fairy said to Lin Tiandao. All right, Lin Tian said. The same goes for you and AI. No one can disturb Wu Yi's seclusion. If you have time, come to the Immortal Court to play. Violet Fairy nodded. After AI waved goodbye to Lin Tian, Lin Shi, and the others. The void in front of him split open. He took AI and the other powerhouses of the Demon King Palace and directly disappeared from the battlefield. Obviously, they had returned to the Demon King Palace in the eastern region. Lin Tian watched Violet Fairy and AI leave, then looked at the dozen or so Immortal Court quasi-emperors and said, lead the other immortal generals to the 1st and 9th heavens and find the corpses of the other disciples of the Immortal Court who died in battle. Yes, the dozen or so Immortal Court quasi-emperors responded. They each led a team of Immortal Court immortal generals and rushed to the 1st to 9th heavens. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Tian, by Ziki, by Chiu, Lin Shi, and the other core members of the Immortal Court were left in this place. The other ordinary disciples of the Immortal Court followed the dozen or so Immortal Court quasi-emperors to find the corpses of the Immortal Court generals who died in the battle outside. They all wanted to complete this task in the shortest time possible. Let's return to the Immortal Court. Lin Tiandao. Golden divine light intertwined outside his body, and the void split open silently. He led the crowd and disappeared in the blink of an eye. For a time, there was not a single figure in the vast red earth plain, only blood flowing everywhere. Lin Tian led Lin Shi and the others back to the immortal court. Then, in the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. 3 days had passed. The corpses of the immortal soldiers and immortal generals who died in the battle outside were all found and buried in wooden coffins in the depths of the immortal court's disciples' graveyard. For those who couldn't preserve their corpses, they could only leave their clothes in the wooden coffins and set up a cenotaph in the depths of the immortal court's disciples' graveyard. In the entire immortal court, even though Lin Tian had passed down extraordinary joint attack techniques and powerful emperor-level divine abilities, there were still more than 17,900 people who died in the battle against the Netherworld race. This is war. No matter which era it is, war is the cruelest. Lin Tian sighed. War foretold death, and the number of deaths was huge. No one will have any complaints if they die to protect the people and this territory. They died a worthy death. Behind him, an immortal court quasi-emperor said in a deep voice. This place was very spacious and filled with green mountains. Within the immortal court's main clan, a group of disciples had gathered here to pay respects to the dead generals. Everyone looked solemn. The densely packed disciples of the immortal court stood in this place for a full 2 hours before dispersing one by one. Lin Tian, Lin Shi, Ji Yu, Shui Yi, and the others were the last to leave. They gathered together in a spacious palace of the immortal court. The biggest contributor to our swift victory this time is Ye. This time, it's all thanks to Ye. Lin Tian looked at Ye and said, he was telling the truth. If Ye hadn't deduced that the Netherworld race would kill their way here, allowing them to grasp the immortal opportunity of the battle and make all kinds of preparations within a year, they would have most likely lost this battle. The 5 elements crocodile nodded in agreement and said, although this battle was won because you killed the 9 celestial lords of the Netherworld clan and blocked the space tunnel, which made the scales of victory completely tilt in our favor, in the end, it was still mainly because of Yin LV. If not for Yin Yua's divination, the outcome would have been very bad. Indeed. Vaiziki also nodded. Sister Ye is really amazing. Lin Shi hugged Ye's arm and said, to be honest, it was indeed because of Ye this time. That's right. That's right. Ji Yu, Bai Qiu, and Sushu said. This made Ye a little embarrassed. Don't be like this, I just deduced the process. But this process directly led to the direction of this battle. Lin Tiandao. It's like this, don't be modest. Shui Yi said. Over the past few years, Shui Yi and the others had often cultivated with Yin Ye and were already very close. The group gathered in this place for a long time and chatted about many things. It was not until an entire day had passed that they dispersed. After that, Lin Tian accompanied Lin Shi and Ji Yu alone for half a month before entering the immortal Emperor Pagoda to cultivate. The Netherworld race had attacked, and the current battle had ended with a great victory. However, the Netherworld race was not dead yet. There were still 5 celestial venerables, and one of them was a terrifying existence at the end of the celestial venerable realm. They were still a huge threat. Perhaps, not long after, this race would find a new path and attack this place from the sealed, dust ancient region. Therefore, in order to deal with all kinds of situations that might happen in the future, he had to quickly increase his strength and enter the celestial venerable realm as soon as possible. He came to the immortal Emperor Pagoda and sat down cross-legged. He activated the Heart Sutra of Sun, and specks of golden divine light intertwined. Soon, his essence, chi, and spirit reached their peak. It was also at this time that his thoughts moved slightly, and he took out a corpse from the stone ring. This corpse was very tall, more than 10 feet tall. It had a strong physique, and its muscles were like dragons. It was the Netherworld Heavenly Venerable that he had killed at the sinkhole. At that time, he had preserved the Netherworld Heavenly Venerable's body, and now he took it out. He was prepared to use the Saint Refinement treasured art to forcefully strengthen his body and increase his cultivation. After he took out the corpse, his glabella shone, and a wisp of his soul essence entered the corpse, temporarily controlling it. Then, using this wisp of soul essence, he activated the Saint Refinement treasured art within the corpse. In the blink of an eye, strands of Saint Refinement runes intertwined, forming a Saint Refinement Tao diagram that was about 10 feet long. As the Saint Refinement Tao diagram intertwined, Lin Tian entered the soul essence within the celestial venerable's corpse and activated the Saint Refinement treasured art even faster. He activated the Saint Refinement Tao diagram, and the life energy within the celestial venerable's flesh and blood was sacrificed to his main body, pouring into every corner of his body. Wong! In the blink of an eye, a rich light enveloped him. It was the purest life energy, quickly nourishing his flesh and blood. This netherworld heavenly venerable's cultivation had fallen to the first level of the celestial venerable realm before he died, but the life energy within his corpse's flesh and blood had not weakened by much. At this moment, he used the Saint Refinement treasured art to sacrifice this life energy to himself. At the same time, he also activated the Saint Refinement treasured art in his main body, constantly refining and absorbing this powerful life energy. For a time, the divine light outside his body became even denser, and his essence, chi, and spirit rose rapidly. His cultivation also soared. Chapter 13-14. The Saint Refining Tao diagram hovered above his head, enveloping Lin Tian's body and the corpse of the Netherworld tribe's heavenly venerable one. Wisps of vitality surged out of the Netherworld heavenly venerable one's corpse and flowed into Lin Tian's body, nourishing every inch of his flesh and blood. His essence, vital energy, spirit, and cultivation rose at an extremely fast speed. Just like that, a month passed in the blink of an eye. Boom! On this day, an extremely powerful divine power spread out from Lin Tian's body. The golden divine light outside his body became as frightening as flames. It almost dyed the entire immortal Emperor pagoda in a layer of gold. Countless Emperor inscriptions lit up on the pagoda. Eighth heaven of the Emperor realm, Lin Tian exclaimed in his heart. He did not open his eyes. His eyes remained closed as he carefully sensed the changes in his body. He realized that his physique had become stronger, his divine power more vigorous, his spiritual consciousness more vast, and his God's soul more powerful. His combat strength had increased significantly. At the same time, he realized that the heavenly venerable one's corpse that was being refined was still in good condition. There was not even a crack on the surface of the corpse. He had only consumed about 20% of the vitality in the flesh and blood. Lin Tian could not help but be shocked. He had advanced from the 7th heaven of the Emperor realm to the 8th heaven of the Emperor realm. He had only consumed about 20% of the vitality in this heavenly venerable one's corpse. No wonder it started as an 8th-stage heavenly venerable one. The vitality in its flesh and blood is too vast, he exclaimed in his heart. Thinking about that, he paused for a moment. He circulated the Saint Refining Treasure technique even faster and continued to refine the corpse. Buzz! Golden divine light intertwined outside his body and became more intense. Immediately after, his essence, energy, spirit, and cultivation level rose again. Even his Taoist law fluctuation became stronger. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Boom! On this day, powerful Emperor energy surged out of his body again. He advanced from the 8th heaven of the Emperor realm to the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm. As the powerful Emperor energy surged out, the immortal Emperor pagoda that was covered in runes shook violently. Lin Tian could not help but open his eyes. He felt that the divine power in his body had become more vigorous, his spiritual consciousness more vast, and his God's soul more powerful. 9th heaven of the Emperor realm, he muttered to himself. In a short 4 months, he went from the 7th heaven to the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm. This kind of improvement could be said to be shocking. He took a deep breath and looked at the Empyrean corpse. At this time, the corpse was still in perfect condition. There was still about 40% of the essence energy in its flesh and blood. This is really, Lin Tian was shocked. He couldn't help but sigh again. A heavenly venerable was really too terrifying. The life essence in their flesh was so strong. Even 100,000 divine veins added together couldn't compare to it. He took another deep breath and calmed himself down. Then he closed his eyes again and activated the Saint Refinement Treasure technique. Buzz! Strands of Saint Refinement runes flashed, cooperating with the Saint Refinement Tao diagram in the air. They continuously dug out the essence of the celestial venerate corpse and offered it to Lin Tian, causing Lin Tian's essence, energy, and soul to rise continuously. Outside his body, the golden divine light became stronger and stronger, more and more intense. The rolling aura surged like a galaxy. After that time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 6 months had passed. 6 months later, in the immortal Emperor Pagoda, the celestial venerate corpse across from Lin Tian emitted a cracking sound. Cracks appeared on its surface, spreading out like a spiderweb. Then, several more days passed. The Empyrean corpse was filled with cracks in every corner. Finally, it couldn't hold on any longer and began to shatter and collapse like a pile of sand. It was also at this time that a divine light rushed out from the shattered Empyrean corpse and rushed into Lin Tian's spiritual sea. In the next moment, Lin Tian opened his eyes. 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. After nearly a year, he had used the Saint Refinement Treasure technique to refine Empyrean Netherworld's corpse. His essence, energy, and soul had strengthened greatly. His cultivation had also achieved a tremendous increase. At this moment, he was at the peak of the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm, just half a step away from the Empyrean realm. He muttered to himself. At this moment, he could feel how powerful he was. The divine power in his body was surging endlessly. His spiritual sea was as vast as the ocean. Every move he made was intertwined with the sound of thunder. His combat strength was much stronger than a year ago. He felt that with his current strength, even if he encountered a first-stage Empyrean expert, he could kill them with absolute combat strength. Rays of light intertwined in his eyes. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he circulated the Sun Heart Sutra again. He mobilized the divine power and spiritual sea in his body to stabilize his cultivation at the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm. Then, another month passed in the blink of an eye. He spent a month to completely stabilize his cultivation at the peak of the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm. His aura became much more condensed, and he was vaguely closer to the Empyrean realm. Just half a step away, he muttered to himself. Then, 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. Cross it in one go. Now, he was only half a step away from the Empyrean realm. He decided to rush into the Empyrean realm before coming out of seclusion. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He circulated the Sun Heart Sutra again and continued to cultivate. Virum! At this moment, his cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th heaven of the Emperor realm. As he circulated the Sun Heart Sutra, golden divine light shone out of his body. It was extremely intense and resplendent. It was like wisps of golden flames. It was powerful and terrifying. Now, the Empyrean realm's corpse had been completely refined and turned into a pile of ashes. He started to absorb the spiritual chi in the immortal court with the Sun Heart Sutra to cultivate. At the same time, his spiritual sea started to vibrate. His powerful spiritual sea stood in his spiritual sea, and he started to comprehend the mystic skills and divine powers that he had mastered. He started to comprehend the profoundness of the skills. Duality steps. For symbol seal. Divinatory divine skill. Dragon burial scripture. High heaven sword scripture. He practiced all the mystic skills that he had mastered in his spiritual sea. From the duality steps to the 4-symbol seal. From the 4-symbol seal to the divinatory divine skill. From the divinatory divine skill to the dragon burial scripture, and then the high heaven sword scripture, formation control technique, alchemy codex, etc. The last time he practiced these mystic skills, he hadn't reached the Emperor realm. Now that he was at the ninth heaven of the Emperor realm, he practiced these mystic skills again and again. The profoundness of the mystic skills gradually became clearer, causing his essence, chi, and spirit to rise again. He practiced these mystic skills in his spiritual sea with his spiritual sea. However, the immortal Emperor Pagoda that his monarch body was in was still affected. As his essence, chi, and spirit rose, the power of the mystic skills in his spiritual sea couldn't help but spread out. The air in the immortal Emperor Pagoda screeched, and cracks appeared in the void. Lin Tian naturally knew about this, but he didn't care about it. He continued to comprehend the mystic skills in his spiritual sea. Now, he was comprehending these mystic skills with his ninth heaven of the Emperor realm cultivation. He gradually grasped the profoundness of the mystic skills one by one. The aura outside his body grew stronger and stronger. His cultivation base gradually rose again without him noticing. Soon, another year passed. Boom! A year later, on this day, an earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted in the sky above the immortal court. The firmament instantly turned pitch black. A pitch-black vortex opened. Strands of lightning intertwined within it as if it was going to devour everything. This is tribulation lightning? What? What happened? This aura. The generals of the immortal court looked at the firmament and couldn't help but tremble. The sky turned pitch black at this moment. Strands of lightning intertwined. The fluctuation was too terrifying. The aura of the 11 Netherworld race heavenly masters 2 years ago wasn't this terrifying. Some of the immortal court quasi-emperors who participated in the battle on the Red Earth plains were shocked. At the same time, Lin Shi, Ji Yu, and the others who were in seclusion in the depths of the immortal court were awakened. Bai Ziki, Wuxing Crocodile, and the others also came out of seclusion. When they walked out, their pupils constricted. At this moment, the pitch-black sky was spreading. In the blink of an eye, half of the eastern region was pitch black. This is the heavenly tribulation? The group was shocked. As the darkness spread, a thundercloud vortex appeared in the firmament. It seemed to be able to devour everything. Strands of lightning intertwined within it. Each bolt of lightning seemed to be able to easily destroy everything. Even the powerful little Taichu couldn't help but widen his eyes. All the hair on his body stood on end. Wuxing Crocodile looked at the terrifying thundercloud vortex. As he looked down from the center of the vortex, he couldn't help but tremble. Right below the center of the vortex was the immortal Emperor Pagoda. This vortex is facing the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Was it drawn out by that kid? Didn't he already pass the Emperor Tribulation? How did this happen again? He widened his eyes in confusion. However, this confusion only lasted for a moment. In the next moment, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened even more. 2 years have passed. Could it be that kid has entered the heavenly venerable state? After entering the heavenly venerable state, he attracted a new heavenly tribulation. As soon as he said that, Bai Ziki and the others were shocked. Lin Tian attracted it? He entered the heavenly venerable state. A heavenly venerable lightning punishment? Everyone's expression changed. That's right. This is definitely a heavenly tribulation. It's definitely attracted by that guy. Other than him, no one else can attract such a terrifying heavenly tribulation. Bai Chio's heart palpitated. At the same time, his good-looking face was full of surprise. But why? Even if he entered the heavenly venerable state, he shouldn't have attracted a heavenly tribulation. Isn't the heavenly venerable state also in the Emperor realm? Back then, he had already passed the Emperor tribulation. Who knows? His body constitution is the envy of the heavens. It can't be judged by common sense. Wuxing Crocodile said. Boom! In the firmament, thunder roared, and the void in all directions collapsed instantly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.